Yep, there you go.
Excellent, thank you. All right then, we will officially call our meeting to order and do a roll call. Commissioner Miranda.
Aye.
Commissioner Friedler.
Aye.
Commissioner Moore.
Present.
Commissioner Bobadilla.
Present.
Commissioner Banty.
Present.
Chair Conway is here, and Vice Chair McLean is absent but excused. Are there any visitor comments at all? Okay, thank you. Next up then, staff comments. Mr. Kasha.
We don't have any comments on staff.
Okay, thank you. Next up is the consent items, the minutes from the meeting of November 6th, 2025.
Will those, the consent items be approved with any necessary corrections?
Necessary corrections?
There are sometimes typos, and we will closely scrutinize it, but there's probably something here or there. Well, with any typo, with any correction of any typos.
So sorry, are you making a motion because is it a specific change?
No, there's not a change, it's just a typo. It's not a,
Okay, very good. Is there a second then?
Second.
All right, so Commissioner Moore made a motion, Commissioner Bobadilla second. Roll call then for that. Commissioner Miranda?
What is it when I don't vote sustain?
Abstain?
You want to abstain? Okay, very
I
good.
wasn't there.
Okay, Commissioner Friedler?
Aye.
Commissioner Moore?
Aye.
Commissioner Bobadilla? Commissioner Banty?
Aye.
And then Chair Conway's aye. So that motion passes 5-0.
One
That's
abstention.
501, thank you. Next up is a work session. We're going to have a traffic commission rules responsibility from Grace Wong and Penny Barr.
Good evening. Can everyone hear me? Doing that check.
Yes.
My name is Grace Wong. I'm one of the assistant city attorneys. And with me is Lady Barr, the neighborhood and public involvement program manager. And tonight we'll be talking to you about traffic commission roles and responsibilities. Part of my presentation will be about a legal update, and then Lady Barr will give more updates about the neighborhood program for commission work. So, my presentation is going to be about ordinances and bylaws, public meetings, and the council rules of procedure. I'm giving this update principally because there have been some movement in public meetings law, and I want to make sure all boards and commissions are aware of these changes, as well as council adopted council rules of procedure last year, and it's very helpful as a best practices document to be shared widely with all boards and commissions. So I feel it would be helpful to talk about that this evening with you. Before I start my presentation, I have to do this for all my presentations because I want to make it real clear as to who my client is. I can advise board and commission members about issues that may impact them, but if there's any specific legal issues that you might encounter with regards to public meetings law, I cannot advise you specifically if those issues are encountered by you. So I can give these types of presentations, but I can't be your lawyer since my client is the entity, the city of Beaverton. So my first subject is really a reminder about the laws that constrain our work, and that is the ordinances and bylaws. The ordinances for boards and commissions are all found in the Beaverton Code Chapter 2.03, and the Traffic Commission is listed as one of the boards and commissions there, and that provides the authority for you to be an official boards and commission of the city, the Traffic Commission. And then the Traffic Commission also has bylaws that control the activities of this commission, and it defines quorum, when where meetings are held, and provides the procedures of how to appoint officers. So it's a good reminder, if you have any questions about the board's or commission's authority, to look at those ordinances and bylaws to see if any of them can be answered in those documents. But for traffic commission in particular, with traffic issues, we have to use the standards and procedures from the Beaverton Uniform Traffic Ordinance, which is in 6.02. And if you want to know the standards that we have to use for each traffic case, you'll have to look at BC 6.02, 060, and 065 for the procedures for how to determine the traffic issues and which procedures to follow. So as a reminder, if you have any questions about the process, it might already be established in City Code. So it's a gentle reminder that we have processes and standards we'll have to follow as a board commission. Now, this is really the meat of why I'm coming here. There was a major update in 2024. It applies to all boards and commissions. And these are the two standard rules that most people understand about public meetings law. And that is all meetings of the governing body of a public body have to be open to the public, and all persons must be allowed to attend. I mean, think of where we are. We've noticed the meeting, we're having the meeting in council chambers, everyone's invited to attend, and it's open to the public. The secondary rule to this is, or it's more of a corollary, is a quorum of the governing body cannot meet in private for the purpose of deciding on or deliberating toward a decision on any matter. Because all our meetings have to be in public and all persons must be allowed to attend, that must also mean that a majority of people in this board cannot meet in private without noticing it beforehand.
Can I just ask you a question?
Yeah, I think we might have the same question. Can we ask questions as we go through?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
If we decided to have a party to celebrate somebody's birthday, would that violate that ruling?
No, you can talk about the Seahawks and the Patriots Super Bowl that's coming up.
But it says any matter.
Right, within the board's jurisdiction, so the traffic commission's jurisdiction. If there's let's say an Allen Boulevard case that's coming before you, you can't then have a majority of you talk about that outside of a publicly noticed meeting.
Yeah, I
But
just wanted to
Seahawks-
clarify any matter.
Yeah,
Thank you.
right.
I have a question for you. So, there's 7 of us in the committee, so does that quorum, I'm expecting it to mean 4 out of 7, is that right? As long as
Yes,
there's
the
4 out of
magic
7,
number is
it's
4.
If not, it's kind of like, then be careful what you're talking about at that time.
Yeah,
So,
great question.
follow up
Thank
to
you.
that then.
Yeah.
So, 2 of us could talk about it
Yeah.
outside the doors on the way out and say, next month is going to be kind of tricky, blah, blah, blah. Here's what, right?
Right, and then you should probably advise each other not to talk to more people. Because,
Don't hit 4. Once we hit 4, we're in trouble.
yes.
So
If
we
you
can-
have, this is actually the major update that I was actually talking about. Serial communications is a big deal that's being talked about in public meetings law.
Okay. And then,
And that's why, that's the real meat of
Okay.
this meat.
and then maybe it doesn't apply to this one, but when does the private session for like city council Friday's meeting was completely secret?
Yeah, so executive sessions are allowed for governing bodies, but that's typically for city councils. There is only very rarely an opportunity for a board or commission to go into executive session. I think the one example that some colleague of mine identified was the planning commission. If there's a exempt public record, like there was an attorney-client privileged email that the city attorney has written for the planning commission, that could be potentially discussed in executive session, but those are very rare, and I would say by and large do not occur for boards and commissions.
Perfect, thank you.
So back to rule 1. So you have to publicly notice your meeting so that they know the location, date, and time of your meetings, which you do. The big change was that they now will require regular meetings, notices to be 48 hours in advance of the meeting, and for special meetings, 24-hour advance notice. As you know, this is standard. If you're meeting in person, the location has to be ADA accessible and within city limits, so people, of Beaverton can attend a Beaverton meeting. Because this is again the main piece of why I'm discussing this. The majority of board members cannot meet in private to discuss or decide any matter within the board's jurisdiction. So serial communications of a quorum of board members would qualify as a violation.
I have a question for you, Mark,
Yes.
on that. So I have a lot of questions.
That's totally fine. If you need more questions to understand, I am fully here to answer them.
Thank you. So, sometimes it's, and this is all we need, some guidance. The meeting's over, we made a decision, but we're still here. It's not recorded, and sometimes there's 4 or 5 of us here gathered still chatting about that. We're still within the public purview and everything. Could that still happen? The only difference I'm envisioning is it's not being recorded.
Okay.
But we're here in the public.
Right, but it's not going to be put up as a secondary issue, like a follow-up item in the following meeting, like?
Could be, could not, because sometimes it's actually a matter that we're like, hey, we told Jabra, it's been tabled, it's gonna come back in another 6 months, make sure just something going up. But again, we're within people's ear. We're not hiding, we're in public.
This is where I would recommend just tabling it and putting it on the next agenda item. Because you can say like, hey, you are here, we finished, it was concluded, meeting over, adjourned. I would recommend having the next meeting be the start of the follow-up conversation, not even if you're still together.
So the key thing is recording then too. I kind of get it there, but I'm gonna push back on you. It doesn't say recorded, it just says noticed. And people must be aware of it, so I'm just gonna push back that I'm in public, we're still having a conversation, why couldn't we not have it? Still, they've been noticed, again, going back, it's just not being recorded now.
Right, but if we're doing minutes, it all happens within the start and the adjournment of the meeting. That is when the public meeting occurred. So yes, you did notice it, but you didn't fully discuss it during the meeting where you noticed it.
I'll let it go. But I appreciate the clarity. What about 6? Sorry, one more and then I'll pass it. Thank you. What about if there's a new issue today? We discussed that there's only 6 of us, not 7. The 7th person really can't comment and become part of the quorum because, no offense, they're not here. Today's a good example, Brad. And we discussed a new issue today. How do we determine the quorum on 6? Is it still going to be 4? You're going to want the 4 of us here in that regard. But if Brad comes in next week, let's pretend we're here next week, and Brad joins 4, but he has no clue about it and doesn't comment, but it's just part of that, can we still hold our meeting? Because he's not going to comment, and I'm kind of getting the impression that we can't really be around. And I understand the perception, but that's what I'm asking.
Oh, no, this is, so who is this person?
Brad is our other committee member today.
Oh, okay.
He's not here today.
Yes.
And then let's say, pretend we're getting together next week again.
Okay.
And next week we're outside.
Yeah.
And Brad is the 4th person. That is a quorum.
Yes.
And he's just there hanging out, listening. We kind of like, hey, I'm going to catch up. We're going to discuss that maybe, but doesn't say anything. We're having a discussion, 3 of us,
His presence counts.
as 4. But he wasn't part of the original,
It doesn't
what made
matter.
us a quorum.
It's again within the matter of the board's jurisdiction, and the magic number is 4. So even if Brad isn't talking, Brad is part of the quorum and listening to the discussions at hand. So,
And that's what we need clarity.
Yeah.
That's asking.
Right.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Okay, so a follow-up then on that, because I think the other piece that Commissioner Bobadias talked about is that once the public hearing is officially done, somewhere in there have been times where we have discussed logistically what we should have done. I think we've discussed sometimes the fact that for example, the motion is here, right? That's the problem, is that the motion's here, the issue is here, right? The city didn't bring us what we needed because this is what they gave us, but the problem is over here. So we discuss sometimes about how we really needed to get the answer to this by finding out what this was. Sometimes we've had discussions about, is this the best way to go, right? The time limits, the discussions about we veered off the path, right? To some people we have, to some people we haven't, right? Because the issue is, the motion is here, but to say yes or no to this without understanding that this is the driving force is to me the issue that we face all the time. So we need to collect that and go. So how do we, that discussion needs to happen before we adjourn?
That's right. That was exactly what I was going to say, of like, if you have all your items concluded and you still need to discuss things to figure out what the next steps are, you could put that at the very end of new business of like, this is what we would like to talk about, for next time, because we didn't get what we needed finished.
No, we
in
made the
this
motion.
meeting.
We resolve and finish.
Right, but you said the motion only covered a small aspect of it, and you said the issue was wider than that motion. At least that's what I heard.
Typically, we have come to either we approve or we tend to approve with modifications. Somebody will make a motion to approve with a change or a stipulation. So that's typically what has happened. Afterwards, though, when that's done, there's sometimes been conversations about, was that the best way? Or what would have been a better, how do we get to that other point, right? Because it's a common theme that happens.
How do we be more efficient, right?
Right.
And so that doesn't happen as that process, kind of like we're criticizing each other or not what we did and we could have done better to accomplish the goal much faster.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's totally fine to have it at the very end of the agenda as maybe a more open-ended discussion of how to do it again next time.
Okay.
And then have it be something that's written down in your minutes before you adjourn.
Okay.
But how do we, I guess sometimes it happens just because we have this, I call after the fact, right, Matt? Because the public wants to leave, and if you continue to say that we haven't been adjourned, people think that they should stay. Does that make sense? And normally, again, we're having this conversation, it's just because people are leaving, so that I guess I don't understand how we see. Because you never adjourn, you just tell the people go ahead and leave, but we're still going to continue to have a conversation and then we'll adjourn?
The public's interested in what you're saying, that's why they're attending. They can leave at any time, they're not bound to sit here from start to finish.
I would disagree. That they're interested, but also interested in knowing has this concluded and does it matter now to me? So I would push back a little bit there. It depends, because if you tell them it's concluded, we don't. Sometimes people hang out. You're right, and a lot of people say it's adjourned. They're like, I'm out of here. They got that necessarily what I wanted, and we're just talking after the fact. But it sounds like it needs to be. Don't close the record. It needs to be within the record, and then you can close it later.
Right, because that is public meetings law.
Okay.
Or you just cut it off, like when you three talk and we come to you, you say, no, you cannot be part of this.
Right, so if after this meeting, for example, we've got a quorum, and I turn to Melissa and say, we disagreed on that one point, here's why, and we have this conversation between the two of us, are we violating that? I mean, because there's still a quorum, but they're not really involved in this discussion.
You should make it very obvious it is not with the rest of the group and that the rest cannot hear you. That is, the magic number is 4. And if let's say Commissioner Conway finds that a very fascinating conversation and wants to join in, you know how conversations can go, that's 3. And if Commissioner Moore decides that's a great point that Commissioner Conway made,
So we can say, we've already got 3 people, sorry, no more.
yeah, you really
No,
need to.
you should not have the appearance of having 4 people be there. It's really what it boils down to. The
That's
appearance,
right.
it just means you can't have a conversation if it appears like there are 4 people, 4 or more.
Because, again, if there is a public meetings law violation, it is a penalty for each of the person participating. You don't even want to get into a situation close to it for an investigator to start asking very close questions.
I'm almost certain it's my turn now, almost certain. All right. I had a point related to all of this that went on before, and I'm getting kind of old, so sometimes these things leave, so I might interrupt, I try not to, because I don't want to forget what I was trying to say. But I think that the main thing is there's a lot of discussion that goes on in our meetings. I don't think you've ever been to one, but sometimes it can take 4 hours. And it sounds like it can take even longer now because we got to get everything in, because we can't even, it sounds as though we can't even discuss with each other, we need to just leave. because that sounds like what's supposed to happen, and I want to get to the crux of understanding what the underlying concern is, other than people think that we're up to something. That sounds ridiculous, but
There's a handy versus, there's a handy case that was exactly that. A group of public officials didn't want to talk about it with members of the public or have them figure out how their decision was made. They went to a hotel and in the lobby discussed on the budget regularly with a quorum of them. And that's how we got into hot water and why all public officials are now being treated like this. It was because it was a concerted effort to reduce transparency on how this jurisdiction got to its budget.
That was extreme though.
right.
Yes, but now this is now a law that is placed on all public officials, which includes board and commission members. Which is why I'm telling you this is important information so that we inform all boards and commission members of the possibility, so that the Oregon Government Ethics Commission doesn't come knocking if there's ever an allegation. You can go, nope, I have never participated in a private meeting outside of a publicly noticed meeting. You can go to this and that be a very nice open and shut case for the investigator. But if you go, oh, I talked to Commissioner so-and-so, and then, unbeknownst to me, Commissioner Miranda was behind, and then that drew in Commissioner Friedler. You don't want him to get into those situations.
So this is a state law.
Yes, this is
All
a
right.
state law.
This guy's my neighbor. Literally, he lives 2 doors down. And so we might actually talk, but we don't usually talk about these things.
But you're 2 people.
Right, we're 2.
Two is
So
fine.
we're okay. What I'm saying is that, how do I put this? It sounds as though we're not supposed to actually enter. I talked to Lanny about this some time ago. I'm not from this area. I've been here 20 years now. But to be on a commission and work with someone on a regular basis and not be able to feel like you can have a conversation with them seems absurd. Or that we can't all converse. And there's also, and this is what I was saying before, because there are fine nuances to many of the things that we are talking about, as I said, I just feel as though it's a constraint. And I am not very happy about it because I need to understand what's going on, and sometimes I ask questions later. And so you're saying I gotta ask all my questions in the middle of what's going on to make our meeting longer, and I don't need to be here till midnight on a regular basis. That's all I'm saying.
Especially not tonight.
Right. And I understand the, I'm going to go biblical. We want to avoid the mere appearance of evil doing. However, we're not evil. We're sitting here trying to volunteer. We're not getting paid. We're trying to help our community. And I'm offended, for lack of a better, I'm a Southerner, I have to watch me. I'm offended, we go there. I'm offended that that's the assumption that the law assumes that we're trying to do something wrong. And that's just how I feel about it.
And I feel like this is well worth mentioning. A lot of laws get written because of people who have broke the public's trust, right? It is not because everyone, it doesn't materialize out of thin air. It is probably because of an incident that caused the public to have an outcry and a law gets drafted. So I can point to the case that actually caused this to make it firmer on how we communicate with each other outside of a public meeting. But again, I did not draft the law, so I'm just the messenger as to what the law says.
But the law
So as you are going forward with your presentation, I don't even want to start discussing all of that stuff that you have in here.
Yeah, there's lots of
Maybe we should move
miscommunication,
on,
yeah,
you know.
right?
Oh, I saw some of this before.
So what counts? We went through a lot of this. A quorum or majority discussing items of which you have jurisdiction. Some examples: board retreats, city tours. What can meet in private look like? There's so many ways we communicate with one another. These are just a few bullet points of the myriad ways we can talk to each other. So this is just a word of warning of be careful as to how many people you're talking to and make sure none of the people you're talking to are going to also talk to someone else. Because the group of two, if you each talk to another about the same thing and mention what the other person talked about, you're gonna get to 4 real easy.
So they don't need to be physically together.
That's correct.
So what?
This is what I'm talking about.
I'm
Group
really
texting, you got your Teams, video calls, you've got your, I'm in a cafe, I see Commissioner Friedler there, and oh, look, Commissioner Miranda's there too. Let's hope that the group of you don't also then find a Commissioner Conway.
What if I'm interviewing someone and it's something that's available to the public? Is that acceptable?
Interviewing someone.
I'm kind of not a professional journalist, podcaster person. And so let's say I wanted to interview Ernie and we wanted to talk about what we do here.
You can talk about things generally, like this is what we do every meeting. We have a work session, we chat with Jabra, our meetings are on Thursdays, that's fine. It is the agenda items, like we have Allen Boulevard coming up next week. What do you think about that? Are you gonna vote yes, or are you gonna vote no?
That's not even what we talk about most of the time when we're talking to each other.
Right, so I feel like that is just, be aware of what's coming up and be aware you shouldn't be talking about that until the actual meeting starts.
We get punished for other people's actions, that's all it is. If it was this wonderful, we wouldn't have problems with our politicians right now. We're being punished for their actions when we're the most transparent.
So also here you wrote using city staff or another person as
Yeah.
a vehicle to seamlessly exchange thought.
Yeah, that's it. Tell Lainey what you want, and then Lainey.
We're rearing you in, Jabra.
Yeah, that's the way that, people have done things. And so they're being very explicit as to how you cannot talk to each other.
So Jabra would be our 4th, so there's our 3 and all of us in
No,
a
Jabra doesn't count
Okay.
as a person on this.
It's
He's not a board member.
So we can have that
But it's not the
conversation.
physical even. You could actually talk to Jabra or Annie, and then you take that back to a couple of other people. As I talked to Jabra, and he said this and that. As soon as that gets to 4, it's a problem.
Right, because, and let's say if Jabra
You better
says,
watch.
Commissioner Conway said, X, Y, and Z while he's talking to Commissioner Moore, there shouldn't be this person said this, and now I'm asking you for your vote to say yes or no, and then you're using a staff person or a third party to communicate your ideas. Right, so it's.
Okay, so
Okay, well,
one of our commissioners couldn't make it tonight and sent an email which went to all of us saying, I'm not coming tonight for various reasons. So was that a violation? Because
No, logistics. Logistics totally fine. I can't make it. What do we bring for our potluck next? For Super Bowl Sunday. Sorry, Super Bowl is this Sunday. So, appetizers. I bring deviled eggs. You're getting the drinks. Totally okay.
even though it pertains to the meeting.
That's right, because you're not talking about the substantive matter.
Just want to know where
which
to draw the line.
Yeah,
Okay.
which you have jurisdiction.
So when we could meet for potluck or whatever, but at that time we would not talk about anything that has been in the past or is in the future. No history lessons.
So we decided, because we've been talking about that, we want to get together, just have dinner right before our commission meeting, because it'd just be easier. We got to make sure we don't talk about anything at all whatsoever. If not, we need to invite Stephanie to take minutes, right?
And publicly notice it. So if we're
48 hours in advance.
Hey, notice that Stephanie, we're having
Okay.
you, and you're going to be there to take our minutes.
Okay.
Right?
But we have to invite the whole public to our dinner.
and be ADA accessible and we within city limits, so you can't go to Portland for a dinner and then come to
Oh, we were
Beaverton.
planning-
So that dinner in Portland would not be.
We were talking right before meeting.
Yeah.
Skip it and hop, literally walking. That's off the table people.
Okay.
So to meetings, to plan future meetings count as a public meeting. Yes, if it's with quorum and it contains substantive matters. So a meeting to set goals for what the board's gonna do in this upcoming year would need to be publicly noticed as a public meeting. But again, like I mentioned, because one of the commissioners is not here tonight, him telling you he's not gonna be here is not something that's substantive. Or figuring out what food to bring and who's assigned to bring food, that also is not something substantive.
Can you go back logistical issues being, I guess, because sometimes what happens in our committee, we are trying to be educated how to run the meeting more efficiently and properly. Right? So if we have that kind of a conversation out there, we can't.
Is it like, I want to learn how to make a motion, or what?
Or so, yeah, emotions get out of hand. I mean, again, you gotta come and join us at times. See how convoluted and we get, and we've gotten a lot better at making sure we stay within the path. And a lot of that has been because we've actually have a conversation amongst us. Hey, you're not supposed to do this. This is what we need to do. Make sure we done that. This is how that should have been done in order to make sure we comply with the rules and that we're getting there. Oh, we're getting there much faster. I consider that logistics. No?
That's getting closer to the line. So again, I urge you to think about setting aside some of your meeting to talk about how to improve, maybe be more efficient with your emotions instead of having it be done separately outside of this.
That was what my other question was. Are we still allowed to deliberate without the presence of the full, whoever is attending? Because it used to be, we say, oh, we're going to deliberate and then we'll make our decision. So because they are here for a public meeting, are we allowed to actually deliberate without them being present? As long as it's being.
What do you, but that's part of the process for the public hearing begins with the chair's statement, right? Presentation of what the issue is. Then public comment, staff rebuttal, and then close the public hearing portion and begin deliberation, right? So the public hearing is still open, the public comment is done.
Got it. So we're still publicly deliberating because they are still present. It's just they are no longer commenting.
They are no longer allowed
That's
to
never been a
comment
problem.
because-
Okay,
We
I'm
can
trying
settle
to,
that.
I'm getting very confused because
No.
it sounds like there's so many restrictions. I'm sorry.
You're okay. We're good. We're still good. We got that one.
Okay. So,
Just don't talk.
Oh, that works really well for me.
I figured an example could help. Peggy, Tim, Josh, Liz, and Chris are the city councilors of Townsville, Oregon. 3 of them make quorum because there's 5 of them. On Thursday night, Peggy tells Tim over email she wants to vote no on the upcoming ordinance going to a vote next week. Tim messages Chris on Friday morning. He tells Chris he will vote no on the upcoming ordinance, that Peggy has already told him that she was also going to vote no, so Chris should vote no too. Is this a violation of Oregon Public Meetings Law?
Yes.
You got to 3, that's right. And 3 was a majority of the city councilors.
So that sounds like collusion
It's not
to
the
me. We
reason,
don't
yeah,
collude.
exactly.
We don't have that kind of leisure of time to be able to do that. That's why when we're here, we're trying to be efficient. All of us here have jobs and other lives. There's things that we have commitments. And people retired that other commitments that we don't. I mean, that's what makes it harder in that regard. We're trying to do that. And we're not.
Anyway, we answered that correctly. Let's move on.
That sounds like collusion. Okay.
Let's be efficient regardless.
Thank you, Commissioner. Keep it going. Glasses belt.
Carry on.
So the last issue and the subject I want to talk to you about is the council rules of procedure. That was a document adopted by City Council March of last year. And it's really a great document and a best practices document for boards and commissions to look at. And in particular, I'm going to highlight section 4.2, which really talks about the communication expectations for the councilors with each other, as well as boards and commission members with each other. And that is really their standard has been now is to come prepared to meetings, to fully participate and make informed decisions. We want board and commission members to be prepared to have a thoughtful debate and discussion about the issues before them. The second bullet point is to treat members with patience, courtesy, and civility, even when they disagree on what is best for the community. And for me personally, I know that when you get a group of more than 2 people, you're bound to have disagreement, even if each of the people that I'm talking to believe that they know and think they're right. Because that's how members come, because they come with their own life experiences. And what this standard is really to remember that, you know, we are all members of the same community. It would be worthwhile to treat each other with patience, courtesy, and civility, because we know that each of us wants to do what's right and what's best for the community, the Beaverton community. So even if we disagree, I like to say we can disagree agreeably, and I try and do that often. Lastly is personal comments or actions that are intended or could reasonably be construed to harm others are best avoided. And so again, these are standards that the City Council has committed to abiding by for each other, and the city really thinks it's a great way to set the standard citywide for all its boards and commissions as well. And thank you for listening, and I'm happy to answer questions, as you can tell. If you have more questions, I'm still here. I can answer more of them if you would like.
So a work session is the best way to recap an item that's already been discussed and the appeal window is closed.
So a traffic commission issue has been decided, and the appeal period has passed. And now you want to go back to...
And traffic commission is, or the council has approved it as a consent agenda, typically the way it would.
Mhm.
So now somebody comes up and says, I don't understand what happened there. Because we've already had that actually in a couple of cases where we felt that we got into a situation because we, the commission, did not get what we should have. So there was some follow-up discussion on that. Is that a work session kind of deal? Because it was pretty complicated to try and figure out and to talk to people and say, this is the situation we got put into. Or in the case where you're prepared, there were a couple of things that got pulled from consent agenda by city council. And we had to go back and explain what had happened, right? But that needs to be happened in a work session.
Yeah, in one of a future agenda item to talk about, you know, how to improve. I think that would be a valid agenda item. Not how to improve. No, this is
Okay.
just...
All right.
No, I think you were asking for a working session like without the public, right? Or not?
No, I think what you're saying is that in this case, the traffic commission work sessions, unlike an executive session, I think you called it, right?
Yeah,
Executive session has to be private because that's what the definition of executive. But a work session here would still be open to the public.
Yes.
I think what I was trying to decide to go back to is there had been a couple of things within the last year that were pulled by council that we had to go back, and when it was all said and done, they completely said we were wrong, and it was rejected. Their appeal was rejected unanimously, right?
And the traffic commission was right.
Right, the traffic commission was right, 7-0, right, with an apology, but, okay. There were ways that could have totally been avoided. And I think what I'm trying to understand is what's the best, do you have to have an official form? Do you have to have a formal work session so that you can discuss how to avoid that again? Is that what it takes to do?
I don't know what you would title it, but it would be in a meeting of the traffic commission to discuss.
But I could bring it up as
Open issue.
could I bring it up as old business?
I think I don't have the typical agenda of the traffic commission.
Couldn't it be new business?
It's not
Okay.
good.
I don't know, I guess that's what I'm saying, is it's a new item to discuss an old issue, right?
But is it actually one particular item? Isn't it that you want to generally avoid this kind of development of the items that we had discussed?
Both.
Both.
There are cases where we have discussed that, but there are cases where I think there are situations that definitely need to be handled differently.
Yeah.
Definitely, in my opinion, as a commissioner, not as chair, but as a commissioner, definitely should have been presented completely differently. And it would have avoided an excessive amount of time and effort, because we don't, in my opinion, take it and say, this is what it says, right? There's not a person on this commission that doesn't say, you know what, this is what's here, but I want to know this, right? Even though the motion is here, there's not a person that doesn't want to say what's going on here.
Exactly, right.
Right.
Yeah,
But-
that's one of our things.
But when you go to do that, right, if you take it like this, because this is what it was, we don't fix the problem. And the
Correct.
problem then keeps reoccurring. So you can
Yes.
discuss the specific issue, and then you can, in addition to that, discuss the process, what you're saying. And you can divide those, but I guess that's what I was saying, but you really need, it has to be done in a work session, or I can bring it up as a old business, new business.
Old business.
Unfortunately, I don't know the traffic commission agenda items, so I can't tell you which would be the best agenda item to put it under, but I will recommend that you do it in the public meeting that you've noticed.
Right, I guess that's what, sorry, Grace, that's what I'm saying. And you would need to bring it up, either new or old business, whatever you felt like, as long as you did it within the hearing, a following hearing, to say, hey, the last time, or since we last met. Okay.
So I feel like our process and even what we do is unique compared to what happens in other types of commissions, and that is problematic in some ways, because we need to solve a problem within the confines of our meeting, and it's not practical to constantly table, as we were talking about before, oh, let's table that and bring that back. We have to come to a decision regarding what is presented to us, and often don't have the details, as Chair Conway was specifically discussing. And that's why I feel as though there are ramifications for our not being able to scrutinize and get the full input in the ways that are going to be appropriate. So it's important, as you said before, to make sure that all that happens, and it may extend our meeting until we figure out how to make it more efficient.
Yeah.
May I interject a little bit, since you're talking about the agenda? But the traffic commission approvals is just a recommendation to the city council per city code. And that's what we're kind of missing the link, is city council, they could approve it as it presented, it says they could put it for a hearing, or they could demand it back to the commission. So the minute the city council holds their own hearing, traffic commission is out of it, basically, and it just, city council will decide what it is. Unless they say bring it back to the commission, which we did that, the last item that city council didn't want to approve. So it just, we need to understand that we have to follow that procedure in the city code. And it's just a recommendation. Then you have to let go after that. You know, basically, it's done. That's how I, seen it all these years, and that's the intent of it. Your approvals are not judiciary, right? It's not like the planning commission. That's the difference.
It is a recommendation to city council who can take your recommendation and your advisement.
Okay, we receive our agendas typically a week in advance, and in some cases, in a lot of cases, we like to go in person to the site, supposing there's a parking issue outside a school or something. So, I like to go and check it out for myself before the meeting. If I go there and I suddenly see 3 other members there who independently have gone there, are we violating this law because we're meeting, we didn't announce we were going to be there, and yet all 4 of us are there? there's a quorum of us there, even though we may not say anything, we didn't announce we were going to be there.
Oh, wait a
You
minute.
didn't say anything. That's the other thing.
Well, it's
Like,
like, hi, how are you doing?
Yeah, you can wave.
What do you
And
think of
can-
the traffic
can
here?
Have, you know, the social niceties of nice weather we're having. Isn't it a warm January? You know, like, you can talk to each other. You just can't talk about why you potentially were there to do that site visit.
Gets into a grey area. I mean, if we make a comment, oh, did you see that truck? Did you see that bus? If we make some comment like that, that could be perceived that we're discussing the traffic issue there.
That's why I would just do a wave.
One of us
Say,
needs to
nice
wave.
weather we're having, and maybe stroll down to do something else. Anyway, my part of the presentation is done.
Thank you.
I'm going to turn it over to Lainey Parr, who's going to be talking about her program.
All right, well, thank you. I am Lanny. I'm the Neighborhood and Public Involvement Program. And our program fosters community engagement by supporting 2 key volunteer programs, the Neighborhood Association Committees, which also includes the Neighborhood Matching Grant Program, as well as our Boards and Commissions program that represents 12 city boards. For boards and commissions, we focus on, we focus on supporting our staff liaisons, because each city board is assigned a staff liaison. We also oversee the fall recruitment process, and as you know, the mayor recommends board appointments and the council confirms. So we work on that process in the fall. And we provide training and activities to support board members, really with the goal in mind of how can we enhance your volunteer experience, and so that you are able to have a full impact in your board's work. We also work alongside with Grace on the bylaws and ordinances updates, and I'll talk a little bit more about that task that we'll be working on this fall later. And lastly, we do provide volunteer recognition events, just like the June event last year where we got everyone together outside the reserve. And the next, since all of you are returning board members, I won't spend much time on this slide because this is what we use for the new board member orientation that we held last year. But I would just say that these are just some best practices that are often good to review, and just really staying familiar with your bylaws and your core mission of your board is really a key to your success. The next item is we did recently have a boards and commissions assessment completed, and this was requested by City Council to do a deep dive into our boards and commissions program. And it wasn't a routine process, it was a very thorough review with some recommendations that we'll be looking at, and it's going to take many years to, but several years to work through. The key goals of that assessment was to really get to the core of what we want to do for you is improve your volunteer experience. But we also would like to optimize city resources and identify ways to streamline and build efficiencies into the board process. Because we know that also makes your volunteer experience a lot more enjoyable and effective. The focus areas that the assessment really outlined and all of the recommendations focused on roles and responsibilities for boards, making sure that there's clarity there, looking at a recruiting and onboarding process. And so many recommendations were made how we can be improving that. And one was to have the board members start in February. It doesn't impact you, but it allows us then to do onboarding and trainings in January so that they actually have that under their belt before they start in their first board meeting. We have about 1/3 new board members this year on the 2026 roster, so it was really important to start implementing some of those short gains. The other piece is looking at how can we be better aligned with city council goals and priorities and city needs. And so we'll be looking at the end of this fall to implement or make recommendations to council for boards and commissions ordinance and bylaw updates. And we are asking all the staff liaisons to send us, by the end of February, some general ideas of what would be helpful for the boards. And so we'd love to hear your feedback. And if this timeline is, obviously you won't be meeting until March. If you need a little bit more time, we can also, it's a work in progress. We just wanted to start having Grace scope out what all the ideas and recommendations are and how much work would be involved. So we're really going to try to gather as much of the input by the end of this month, early March, to get a better sense of what's doable to get before council at the end of this year.
Quick question.
Yeah.
How is that information evaluated? The assessment information that you're going to be gathering, what's the evaluation process of it?
Great question. So the assessment was actually hired by a third-party firm that did a review. They interviewed all of you. They interviewed our city council, city leadership, and out of that, they came up with a report that was prepared to and delivered to council, outlining what some of those major themes were and things and considerations. And we've sent those out to all the board members, but I'm happy to send that out again. But it was, and generally, the themes of the recommendations fell into those categories. Yes.
Oh, sorry, I've got something now I got to write down immediately so that I can bring this up with you later.
So one of the recommendations in the assessment was really utilizing and improving the board work plan process. It's a new thing that we added just 2 years ago. And this was at the request of City Council that we implement a board work plan process to align the efforts of your board work with council's priorities and goals that they come up with every year. The purpose is to clarify the body of work that you're going to tackle for the year, and just show where the areas that you're going to tackle.
Well, I mean, for traffic commission, that seems pretty clear. I mean, it's
And I
more
would,
for the other.
and I would definitely say this is the advisory boards actually spend a lot more time. Like I'm thinking like the Arts Commission, those type of Committee on Aging, they'll actually have a lot more, spend more time on, because the potential is they don't have as much of a formal process as you do. So you are in a little bit of a different category, but still you can add, like we would like to tackle how we have our discussion at the board meetings. You might even we'd like to have a work session on this, so that we can function more effectively as a board. That might be something that, in addition to, and we're going to also be hearing presentations and weighing in on the Elm Boulevard, all those things. And I guess I would just mention, if you've got feedback for bylaws and ordinance update, if you could just coordinate and send that to Jabra, and we'll be working with them on that. And then the board's work plan is staff liaisons submit that to our office May 22nd, and then we prepare all the board work plans for a city council agenda vote. And we are aiming to get that to them by the first week of July. So with that, what we really I wanted to use this time for is just to ask and give you a few questions for feedback as we're tackling this year's work, and how we can be a better support for you and for your staff liaison. And so these are just some general questions of, we just want to get a pulse of, what's working well for you is one of the first questions. And then what challenges or areas of improvement would you like to see in your current process? And then the other questions would be, are there resources, trainings, or additional information that would make your job easier and more effective? And how can we better support you as a volunteer? And are there any other tools that would be helpful to have in your role as a commissioner? So with that, I'll just let you share.
So you bring up, that's an interesting set of questions. Okay, so I would think that as a board, we should have a work session as opposed to flying off the top of our heads now and come back to you with a cohesive answer as opposed to just chatting, so to speak. That's my opinion.
And I'd be happy to come back, if that's the pleasure of the commission.
Well, you can give your feedback too. But yeah, are you looking for a consensus from?
Yes.
I have a comment I could give you feedback, you're not gonna like it. We want to be able to more freely speak amongst each other.
No.
Sorry.
Is that darn state law?
Yeah, it's like it's gonna be.
And this is gonna be me all the time now. I need a point of clarification. When I read this, I did not assume that it was, everybody had to have the same answer. I thought we got to answer because each of us has a piece of paper and we can each give it to Jabbar.
Yeah.
We don't have to agree. But I understand that it would be useful to be able to have a unified voice. I'll bring it up.
Yes. Anybody agree with that idea?
I like them. What's that?
Discussion?
I like them both. I mean, the commission as a whole sees themes that go on, right? But I think that there are issues that every commissioner has to struggle with within the context, right? Because we bring, I think in my tenure with the traffic commission, in my tenure as a volunteer with the city, right, which goes back to the mid-90s now, that this is probably the most diverse, well-rounded group of commissioners that we've had, because they're all involved in some different aspect, and they bring a lot of experience with it, but they all have seen different struggles that they have had to kind of go through. But then, to Commissioner Friedler's point, as a whole, the commission struggles with some reoccurring themes, which take a lot of time and a lot of effort. Because I don't think I think to Commissioner Brodier's point, there's people that have gone out and spent a lot of time, and Commissioner Bansky pointed that out too, right? I've gone out and spent 2 hours watching kids in the chaos at schools in Beaverton School District, not taking any part of it, and then go back in the afternoon and spend another 2 hours watching parents do things that are somehow an issue that we have to resolve. We spend a lot of time and effort. So I think to that point, yes, there are things we could come up with for you, but there are also things that I think if somebody has a pain point now, by all means, you should kind of share that. But to Commissioner Friedler's point, then yeah, we should have a board session after a public hearing and discuss what are some things. Although you need this by when?
There's no timeline on
Okay.
this. Yeah.
Then yeah, I like that. So if somebody has something now, they can.
I think one thing that sometimes can make it easy for all of us is to be reminded at times what our long-range goals are. Even our master plan, we talk about it, but sometimes it's evolved, and I need a refresher, honestly, of what it looks like right now, what it is. I think we could all benefit from it, and maybe even you can benefit from hearing our concerns of like what might be a problem. Do what you think might be useful for it, but I just sometimes feel I'm lacking that right now. We've talked about it a lot, and honestly, maybe I should have done a better job, and I should go look it up by now, but I would find it useful.
what you just said, I did not clearly understand, because who is our? Are we talking about the commission or our city? Because I think that the intersection of what the traffic commission has to overlap with planning and all of the other entities that impact what we do has to do with who our goal is. And there's lots of things that come up that I wouldn't say blindside, but that we as a committee, as a commission, have to address because someone else made a decision that did not address them. And I think that that's what we're constantly finding as part of our mutual nemesis.
And where a master plan is supposed to be our guide.
Yes.
I mean, that's what we're supposed to be going towards, and in theory, all their actions eventually are supposed to go that way and get us there to our destination, right? I can tell you, maybe I'm speaking very, very wrong, but I don't think we all know exactly where our ultimate master plan is right now. And that's probably why sometimes get confused.
I think it would help to Commissioner Further's point that one thing that would be enlightening to have that work session would be to have a short recap of all of the projects that are affecting, right? I haven't heard about the parking update in quite a while. I know that we're doing some sort of enforcement, but there was a big discussion during, for instance, the Broadway street, because we want to change the parking again. And I've heard people say that we need a differentiation, just like Portland, the 2-hour spot, 1-hour spot, 15-minute spot. Yet the last time it came through, the consensus was, we're going to make 2 hours citywide. That's just the way it is. There were people who had testified, though, that that doesn't work for their business. But they were trumped by the other businesses who said this is what's going on. The logic and understanding of that kind of situation would, I think, help when we have a work session to say, okay, let's go through and address this. What is the parking plan? What is the current status? Right? We have 1,600 storage units. Not all of them are lined, so I'm not sure you can go with 1,600. But we only have 187 neighborhood permits, right? Is there a process for that, right? The loop, haven't heard really anything of where we're at with the loop right now. Milliken extension is still going on. Now South Cooper Mountain needs some things, but the walkability deal has no commercial zones in it. Then I saw that the change for Cooper Mountain is going to have a special, they're going to have some special funding or something. I didn't understand the whole thing that either. But I think having an overview of all of the projects that affect traffic would be really good to go through and say, here's an example and a reminder of what's going on with these projects. The First Street Commons, been 6 years. And we had to do 5 extensions now. It's $180,000 a year to keep it closed, and they're still in review. That's the kind of thing that would help us be able to give you a presentation of, this is what we struggle with. It's just mine. And because we have that, then when we have our work session, we can sit down and say, let's go through all these things. Here's a common theme out of this. Here's a thing that we do this. This is perfect. We get all we need out of this. This is what we, right? Because we heard more about the street calming than we did about the loop. And the loop's going right through the middle of town.
One of the things that I've been here a couple of years also, and did other traffic work with another organization in the city. But everything seems to be evolving. So as soon as we get one thing done, somebody comes in the back door and, no, we have to do it this way because of this. So more than going linear, we're doing zigzags. And that's frustrating. So that's why I really think, sit down, get the plans, check, what do we need, what can we do?
And if it's going to be open, it's going to be great, because at any time, we can always point to the public, say, you should go read this one up. You should, because it talks about the recent history, everybody needs to be reminded about what happened 10 years ago. We're building on it, but people forget. People barely remember last year, the community. So it's a good opportunity for refreshment.
Nice. That's a great point.
Thank you.
Anybody else? All right, thank you. I appreciate
just
it.
have a couple, just one quick reminder. We do have an upcoming boards and commissions retreat on Monday. It's going to be a really strong lineup of having our city manager give an update on governance and the city council priorities, which are so important to see the updated ones from the recent council retreat. Hear from the mayor. She'll give a city council update. We'll have our assistant city manager give an update on the fiscal sustainability. And there will be more opportunity for Q&A with that. And then some interactive discussions on how to get what you need for a successful year. And also talking more about board work plans, how that can be a really strong tool to help add that coordination and balcony view look at the work that you're tackling. And then the next event after that is the Mayor's State of the City, March 2nd. And the tickets are available online for that. And the Belonging Workshop will be the last activity, board activity for the spring, March 30th at the library, where our Office of Equity and Inclusion will talk about practical ways to have a welcoming environment and how your board work can be improved with some of the tools that they'll share.
Are any of those, especially like the first or the second, is there a Zoom link to or not?
There's not a Zoom link, but they are being recorded, both of them, but not the last one.
Can I ask them just maybe something that for the mayor there or for the city council, like the state of the city? I see some other cities have actually they provide somewhat of a link or something like that. Is there something why that isn't? I just think it should be so important, especially the state of the city, that some people can't get out of their house. Maybe it's just not feasible, and they probably just want to hear about it.
And I should share that the State of the City is live streamed, so that.
Okay, that's right.
Yeah,
Okay, so
it's just not a Zoom where you.
Yeah, and I just meant because live stream.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
But
That's
the boards and commission retreat is not live stream.
Right, and that has to do with the technology, so we just don't have in the rooms the equipment for sound to get picked up. That room that we're using at the Rooster, anytime we get outside of council chambers, we just don't have the equipment.
Yeah.
And we have tried, just so you know, folks were really dissatisfied when we did try to add it to be a Zoom. They just couldn't hear very well.
Yeah.
And we heard that loud and clear that we're just not there yet. Would love to get there.
The state of the city live stream, is it, where is it, like, do you just go to the website, it's going to be easily there?
Yes.
Perfect, thanks.
Mhm. That was it. So if you want to reach out to me, that's my contact information, or send the details to Jabra, and I can connect with them.
Thank you. He needs a special.
Yeah, it's hard
Oh,
to hear him.
it's remote.
It's because if he had this kind of,
This is why.
oh, that was wrong.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
He has such a soft voice anyway.
Good evening. Thanks for having us tonight. My name is Jessica Engelman. I'm senior planning in the long range planning section. And I manage on this update to the city's transportation plan. Was here once before, and can talk to some of you. I'm joined this evening by Brad Martin. He's the long range planning manager. We've got a lot of information to share with you this evening, so I'm going to jump right in. So we've been working on two fronts over the last 6 months. really to gain a firm understanding of what's working, what's not working, and talking with community members about where they'd like to go and where they would like it to feel safer. We were listening, mapping data, looking for patterns, learning, synthesizing everything into a cohesive narrative that can then inform the next step in the project where we're at now. And I'm going to walk you through a handful of takeaways, but first I'd like to turn your attention to the two maps in your packet or up on the screen, probably in your packet. It might be a little bit easier to see. They're an example of how the analysis work and the community engagement work really dovetailed and worked together to provide insights into what we should be focused on going forward. So on the left, you'll see a zoomed in portion of the map of Beaverton street systems, color-coded according to how many traffic crashes have occurred and how severe those crashes have been over a 5-year period. That's 2018 to 2022. That's the data that we have to do this analysis. The darker the color, the worse the crash history. The blues and purples, those are streets owned by the county or the state. The resident oranges are ours. That's their owned by the city. So on the right, you'll see locations where people told us over this past summer that they wanted it to feel safer. And so if you compare that, if you compare the two maps, you can see that there are several similar locations that are lighting up. So we have TV Highway, we have Murray, we have Cedar Hills. We generally have our downtown. So both of these are really important to understand because when it comes to safety, we want to be proactive rather than just reactive. And historic data, it can't tell us everything. So both of these maps are helping us identify places that we need to be focusing our attention.
Can I just get some clarification, please? So the left are crashes between vehicles, presumably, and the map on the right are pedestrians. So we're talking about two different things,
more about
right?
the safety, so you might want to hold that question until we get a little bit further on, because I might have some answers for you at that point.
I'm just wondering, is it the same population? Because my impression is on the right, these are pedestrians, cyclists who don't feel safe, and on the left, crashes between vehicles, not crashes where a pedestrian's involved, for example.
Thank you for that clarification. So the severity weighted crash density map, I assume that's the one you're looking at, right?
Yeah.
That's the one, that's all crashes that are severe or basically injury or fatal. And on the right, that's what we heard from the community. So people put, and I'll talk about this in a minute, people put points on a map. They ask people to pinpoint exactly where they would like to feel safer. So let me just continue on a little bit, and I think,
the crashes involve everything. So it's vehicles, pedestrians, bicycles, all the crashes are in there.
Right, but you don't know what proportion involve pedestrians. It means it might, handful of crashes, because it makes a difference how you interpret these, because you're
so I think it'll be a little bit easier to understand it.
Okay.
That's coming.
Happy to answer it, but I just want to make sure I can give the information out there. So let's talk a little bit about what we did over this last summer. So between April and September, we were out in the community asking folks about where they like to go, where they would like to feel safer, and what they thought of some potential future street designs. So we received 2,800 responses from folks. We connected with residents from every neighborhood. We heard from people, many different backgrounds, many different ages, abilities. And I really want to give a shout out here. We had the project's transportation ambassadors. These were 8 community volunteers appointed by the city manager who spent a year building skills so that they could go out into the community this past summer and talk to folks about the project. And they just really played a pivotal role in shaping and executing the community engagement strategy. And we could not have had the reach we have without their help. So that they played a major role. A full engagement summary, so if you're looking for more details, is up on the webpage. You can go check that out. But the short of it is that with some background support from staff, the ambassadors really did take a lead role in facilitating the focus groups, tabled at the library, tabled at city events, interviewed people, conducted workshops, and facilitated activities at ACT meetings. So to capture people's thoughts and just really draw people out to hear about their experiences, we used a variety of tools that could be deployed both in person and virtually. You can see some of these activities on the screen. So towards the back, you can see people placing pins on large printed maps. And this is where they could show us where they like to go and where they would like it to feel safer. And then sitting at the table, you can see a gentleman taking a written survey where we had 11 by 17 maps where it was possible for people to draw on the map and tell us more about what was making it feel unsafe at a specific location. And then behind him, you can see two people flipping through what we refer to as the lookbook. This was an 11 by 17 book of potential future street designs to help people really just imagine what it could be and give their feedback about what they liked or what they have concerns about. People could leave sticky notes in the book itself. And so online, we had similar activities where people could place digital pins into the map and answer follow-up questions similar to what they could in person. Okay, so what did we learn? We learned that short trips are common in Beaverton. People are traveling for lots of reasons other than just going to work. Both the trip data we analyzed and the information we received over the summer directly from the community indicated that residents and employees are regularly making trips under 3 miles. And right now, most of these trips are by car. However, we heard from community members that many of them would like an opportunity to try to take some of these trips by walking, biking, and taking public transit, if the conditions felt safe, convenient, and welcoming. And this interest really spanned all age groups, and especially for those short local trips. Of the trips that begin in Beaverton, 71% are taken for purposes other than going to work. So for example, going to school, running an errand, shopping, recreation. And importantly, people convey that these trips are often, they're not discretionary. They are truly necessary to meet their daily needs. Popular destinations in Beaverton included shopping centers like Cedar Hills Crossing, parks, the library, grocery stores. Heard a lot about grocery stores. In general, we heard how these popular destinations, they're also serving as community hubs. So that really came through a lot. They're places where people want to gather. Most students in Beaverton take the bus or driven to school. Walking and biking are less common, but some schools do have higher rates of students walking or biking. These schools are north of US 26 with higher areas where there's a higher household median income. And then thinking about work trips, most people in Beaverton drive to work, about 2/3, and a significant number work from home. So about 1 in 5 people work from home. And these, again, tend to be higher income earners who are working from home. About 10% of residents who use public transportation walk, bike, or ride a motorcycle to work. But the highest in there, about half of that, 10%, so 5%, are taking public transportation. And safety is a major concern for folks. When asked about safety, people wanted to share lots and lots of information. Among other things, we heard about feeling unsafe crossing the street, feeling unsafe biking near fast-moving traffic, and waiting for a bus to come on streets that felt unwelcoming or safe or unsafe. So here I want to focus on one particular factor that really permeated everything, and that's speed. Speed's really dangerous. The black, blue, and purple image up on that screen shows how several factors combine to either heighten or lower risks for a person who's walking. On the right, in black, you'll see how things play out if someone's driving at 40 miles per hour. At that speed, a person has a really limited cone of perception, meaning they essentially have tunnel vision and can't mentally process what they're taking in outside a very narrow view. If somebody unexpectedly crosses their path and they need to stop, it's going to take them over 300 feet, so about the length of a football field to come to a full stop. And with that speed and volume comes an immense amount of force that is all discharged into the thing that the vehicle hits. And in this case, a person walking who does not have any protective shell to shield them from that impact. So as a result, the person has about an 80% chance of dying from the collision. As speeds get lower, that cone of perception widens, the stopping distances lessen, the force from the collision is reduced. So a person's chance of survival goes up. However, even at 30 miles per hour, the odds are not great that the person's going to walk away from that crash without a serious incapacitating injury. But you can see over in the blue, when we get down to speeds of 20 miles per hour, that cone of perception is far wider. The stopping distance is a third of what it was at 40 miles per hour. And as a result, the survival rate actually goes up exponentially to 90% survival rate. So essentially it's the inverse of the death rate at 40 miles per hour. So getting these traffic speeds down to less lethal speeds can really make a difference in helping people be able to keep each other safe. Because generally that is what we heard from folks. People want to keep each other safe, no matter how they're traveling, even if this isn't always obvious from the actions that we're seeing. And speed really stuck out when we looked at where injury crashes occurred on streets in Beaverton. Nearly all crashes where someone was injured occurred on a street with a posted speed limit of 30 miles per hour or greater. I see you. I'm going to do one more slide, okay? Because I have one more safety slide. Is that okay? I just want to make sure. Okay.
If I said no.
Yeah.
I mean, I can stop. So, unfortunately, the crashes resulting in injury are pretty common in Beaverton. If evenly distributed over 5 years, crashes that result in any kind of injury are occurring approximately every 10 hours in the city. And this is when we take out crashes that occurred on US 26 and Oregon 217. More severe crashes, so those that are involving fatalities or incapacitating injuries, spread evenly over those 5 years, are happening roughly every 11 days. And as the previous graphic explained, pedestrians and cyclists face a disproportionate share of those risks. So when considering past crashes in Beaverton, 42% of pedestrians and 20% of bicyclists that were involved in a crash were killed or seriously injured. That's compared to 6% of motorists.
Were killed or certain, because you wrote only killed.
So it's killed and seriously injured.
No, it's not seriously injured if that's not written here.
Well, okay. Or suffered an incapacitating injury, that's seriously injured.
No, 42% of pedestrians and 28% of cyclists
I
were
feel
killed
guilty.
when a crash occurred. If that's not correct, you
No,
would
thank
need
you
to
for that.
start.
Thank you for that. I've done this presentation a couple of times, and you're the first person that caught that, so thank you. That is correct. My words are what I meant. What was written on there. So thank you for that.
So that is a correct statistic? Is that what you're saying?
It is
No,
correct.
no,
Well,
that's
it's
written.
killed and seriously injured.
Oh, so that, yeah, okay. So,
Yeah.
There's not, wow.
And then one other little observation. This is over 4 years, 5 years, and you also included 2020 and 2021, which
Those are the,
screws up the whole statistics.
well, I will say that the trends are not looking good going forward. So, while there were some perhaps different behaviors in those years, the behaviors that we are seeing are not wildly out of the ordinary compared to where we're heading now.
It's
So-
worse.
You know, it's worse, that's what I'm
Yeah, I mean, it's
pointing
worse.
out.
Generally, I would say that well, there are fewer overall crashes. The severe and fatal ones are going up.
Yes.
So it's actually the worst crashes. Yeah.
You should just start at 21.
I didn't see it.
So there is a lag in the data that we can, that just so you know, like that we did work with the data that we had and we wanted to use the most recent data. So if that's one of the questions, just want to give you context of why we're using that. But the 2023 data has since been released and it does show, unfortunately, a similar trajectory.
Does Beaverton keep statistics just like Portland, like how many
You should have just
deaths have been occurred so far the year in a crash? No, do you know?
I don't know that we publish that anywhere. I mean, that is the information that does, and we do have access to that.
Well, I think sometimes that's important to share with the public, because in Portland, and they've done that, and it has brought it to people's attention of how, like you mentioned, how bad the crashes have been. And especially when that statistic came out last year, people were shocked by March of how many deaths or serious injuries there were, and we were only in March. So I just saying, it's out there, but I think sometimes it brings knowledge to people. We forget that we do have a speed problem going on right now, and even in Oregon, in Beaverton especially, within the TV highway or Farmington. My God, that is just like a red light there of crashes.
Yeah. So I did not forget about it, so.
Oh, good.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
I'll jump
I'll just
in.
sit here, listen. My turn?
I mean, yes.
Okay. Can I make a suggestion? 20 miles an hour, okay? You stop at 115 feet on dry pavement. You do not stop in 115 feet on wet pavement, excuse me. So if you could, I think to clarify it, it would dry pavement.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of factors that are involved in there as well.
Right, okay. You're not going to stop 115 feet on ice.
Or even rain can require.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot
right, because
of,
roads are wet. The other thing is on the other page, crashes where, W-H-E-R-E, not were, past tense. On your,
Yeah.
you found another typo.
huh?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean,
I did have a question about where, if there's a citation, where are these figures coming from? Where, is it from a survey that was done? I think you answered that a little bit later, but it doesn't say where these figures came
For
from.
the crash analysis?
Any of it, because
So
here it says, but before that, when I had a question, I waited.
Yeah.
Where did these numbers come from? Because they're useful. You are talking to traffic commission, so we talk about these things all the time. But I was curious as to how recent this was and where these figures came from.
So the crash data that we get it aggregated from ODOT, gives it to us. So the way that they get it is through police reports at the local level. And then it comes up and it gets filtered into the larger database that gets sent out to everybody with all the various factors. So we can see a lot of different things. So for example, most of these serious injury or fatal crashes are occurring at intersections on major roads, particularly arterials with multiple wide lanes, high traffic volumes, and elevated speed. So we can see certain characteristics that are in crash reports, and then that's what gets put into that data. And so we had that for 5 years of data, 2018 to 2022. And we work with our consultant team to basically crunch those numbers and come back to you with what you're hearing tonight.
So that speed is dangerous information came from the 2018 to 2025.
The crash statistics that I've been saying. Oh, the visual
The
graphics?
speed is dangerous one.
Yeah.
That's also from that period, because it didn't say at the time, but then I saw the next page said it was from 2018, so I assumed that it was.
Yes. So please assume that the crash data, anything that I said about the crash data, are in that 5-year time period. Because we did just use that data set.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
You're welcome.
So, I've got a question. I'm a bit concerned about what you're not showing here. So I'm a scientist, I'm going to be really picky here, but you're talking about there's a crash every 11 days and every 10 hours, there's a crash. But then you're jumping to a percentage for the pedestrians. Why don't you actually give the numbers? How many pedestrians? Is it just a fraction? Because you're putting a slant on this data. You're not showing us the actual data. To say 40% of pedestrians were killed, let's say, that's a completely separate thing, but you're kind of implying that most of those accidents every 11 days, every 10 hours, were with pedestrians and cyclists. You're implying that, but you're not actually showing that data to back that up.
I mean, I can tell you that the reason why I put those percentages there, because pedestrians and cyclists are more vulnerable and had a higher proportionate rate of being killed.
I understand.
So that is the reason why I did that. I don't have those numbers right away. I mean, it is true that if you look at them on the overall amount of crashes, right? People are driving 90% of the time, so there's going to be more crashes with vehicles involved. But the point is that 6% of those are of the crashes where it's a vehicle-related crash, had the people getting killed or being seriously injured. So the point is still holds true, right? It's a proportion of it, and we're really trying to focus in on the serious and the injury, the serious and the fatal crashes at this point. Those are very life-altering.
Yeah, I agree. The point I'm trying to make is, though, there could be 300 pedestrians being killed, or it could be 10. We don't know. This doesn't
We do
tell.
know.
Well,
We do
tell
know.
us
I
what
don't
number
have
it
that
is.
for you right now.
Yeah.
So we will have. Did you want to say something, Brian?
I just wanted to, so we can make more of the data available and the materials. PowerPoints in general are takeaways, right? Like you can't put a set of data on a PowerPoint slide. So we're just trying to provide very salient, interesting information. And then it's kind of, I think, letting your appetite, and then you can go see more in more of the longer reports and materials that we can share.
Right, I mean, the only point I'm trying to make is if there are 300 pedestrians and cyclists being killed, that's a big deal. If it's only 5, it's tragic for those 5. But you interpret that differently. And there's no way of knowing by just giving us a percentage. So it would be very helpful if we knew how many cyclists and pedestrians are actually being affected by this.
It matters, but it really matters more, right? Like he has a point. There's 300 people being killed in that one spot versus 5. And there's a bigger sense of urgency. Not that every life doesn't matter.
And one other
Well,
point.
I will say that one of our goals is eliminating fatal and serious
Eliminating
crashes. That's
what?
one of the council goals of this TSP that they have. We put that forward. So that's just for a context. That's really front and center. And so if we're thinking about that's, I just want to help you all understand, like that's sort of the framing here.
What's the one main goal we don't know? What did you just say?
Well, one of the goals of this transportation system plan is to eliminate fatal and serious crashes from our system. And so that includes everybody. That's people driving, that's people walking, that's people biking. So when we're looking at risk factors though, what that is saying is that when you're outside of that shell, you're at a higher risk of being one of the people that are impacted from that, right? And so by virtue, or not virtue, but I mean, by the situation that we're in, more people take trips. 90% of the trips in Beaverton are by driving, right? So there's going to be a lot more, but you're right, like there are more people using the system in that way than walking or biking. But it's disproportionate. The people who are walking and biking are getting disproportionately impacted when they're doing that. That's really what this slide is trying to say.
So as one follow-up to keep up, and maybe Commissioner Miranda that was the point. It's 42% of pedestrians who had a car to pedestrian accident, or 42% of the people total killed were pedestrians.
It's killed or injured, remember, it's not all killed. So
Okay, but
in a good way. It's just like
okay, but I mean, is that's the total of everything, or the total of the pedestrian to car accidents? Is it every accident, or just the pedestrian to car?
Every crash that involved a pedestrian. That's the universe.
Okay, so there's a percentage then of people, of cyclists to cars, and a percentage of car to car. So there are 3 different categories, and there are really only 2
That's
then.
the way that you can
Okay.
describe that, yeah.
So there is 3 categories?
There's 3 categories, but we only have 2 up there, and then you don't know what the total count is,
Which is what he's.
because you don't know what the car count is either. But
And one other point I'd like to make, I think we all agree that if you're hit by a car at 20 miles per hour, you're going to be safer than if you hit at 40 miles per hour. So reducing the speed would make it safer, but it doesn't necessarily follow that the number of accidents will decrease. In some cases, it's been shown it will actually increase, because if traffic's going too slow, people are busy looking at their speedometers instead of looking at the kids running across the street and things. And so the actual frequency may actually increase. So I think you need to be aware of that. So just reducing the speed will make it safer if anybody is hit, but it doesn't necessarily mean that the frequency of the accidents will decrease. And in
Right,
some
okay.
cases, it may actually increase.
We're interested in severity. Yeah, thank you. And so to that point, many people instinctively feel that fast-moving traffic is putting them at elevated risk of harm. And this is translating into where folks are feeling comfortable walking and biking. We heard from several people about how large, noisy, high-speed streets are acting as barriers to the destinations that they want to reach. So as a result, several people who drive said that they're feeling forced to drive for all of their trips because they don't feel safe walking, biking, taking public transportation for some of them. Others who don't have that option or can't drive said that they are feeling cut off from parts of the city because of these safety concerns. And to illustrate this, we created a map of Schiffler Park, so located in downtown Beaverton. You can see it in the center of the map. You can also see several red lines. These are streets with the posted speed limit is 30 miles per hour or greater. So using Schiffler Park as an example, we wanted to understand a couple of things. We first wanted to understand who could access the park in roughly 10 minutes without encountering a high-speed street. So that's the solid blue in the map. The second thing we wanted to understand was who was within a 10-minute walk, but are being cut off from this community resource. So that's the hashed area of the map. And you can see that the entire neighborhood, the neighborhood south of Allen, and over to the east of Hall Boulevard by LC Service Center fall into that category. So the point here is that slowing down speeds on these streets and providing better protection for people who are trying to cross those streets could potentially go a long way to expanding people's comfort zones so that blue area, and in turn open up parts of the city that previously felt inaccessible to people. And the quality of the facility really matters. Having something people will use is more than just the existence of the facility. A great example of this are bike facilities. We have painted bike lanes on over half of our major streets in the city, but many people don't see them as actually being viable because they still don't feel safe out there. In general, we've heard how different groups have different needs, but all of them want safer, more accessible streets. We heard from young people, they want safe ways to get to school, they want safe ways to get to part-time jobs, to parks, places to hang out with their friends. Older adults, people with disabilities, asking for smoother sidewalks, safer crossings, accessible transit stops, better signage. We heard from caregivers who want to feel confident that their kids or older adult family members who they care for can still travel safely and independently to where they need to go to. So this is where we're at in the process. We've completed the existing conditions analysis. We're now beginning to move on to take a look at what the pedestrian and bicycle transit motor vehicle networks could look and function like going into the future. We plan to come back to council in late spring, early summer with ideas. And I just want to wrap up with the key actions that we discussed with council back in April and brought to them in December, and they're supportive of. And these are the actions that we believe have the potential to advance multiple community-wide goals at once. And what we heard from the community tells us we should continue to look towards these actions to guide future stages of work on this project. People desire designs that reduce speeds and help keep everyone safe. People want wider sidewalks, they want safer crossings, they want connected networks, they want barrier grade separated bike lanes, more comfortable transit stops, better lighting, more greenery. And there's a real desire for streets that not only serve a mobility function, but also function as places for gathering and being in community. Some suggested quick build projects or pilot projects to test new ideas. And many, many are ready for change and want to see changes sooner rather than later. So with that, we already started some of the questions, but we'll
Can I make another point?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, what you're trying to do is take human nature out of driving. And I'll explain myself. Okay, I do the speed limit. Allen is a zoo. I mean, people are doing 40, 50, and 60 on Allen. Side street, 130th, 40, 50 miles an hour on a side street. So, until you can change people's behavior, this is all well and good, but you gotta get the people to slow down. Because if you're doing 30 miles an hour, which is the speed limit on Allen, you're gonna have somebody on your tail, blowing their horn, yelling at you, waving their gun, cutting you off. Okay? That's been my experience for 43 years here.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, it's all about human behavior. And what are your thoughts on that about ways, I mean, do you have any further things?
You don't want my opinion because I just say, don't pull your gun on me. Don't do it. You know, I mean, people are doing it every day.
Scary.
And it's getting scary. That's my say. Change human nature, you got this thing beat.
If I may concur, because we are experiencing that same area, so he's my neighbor. So there's not just speeding, but frequently continuing. After the light is changed, 3 or 4 more cars going through at the intersection where we live on Allen, and I've been told that it can't be enforced, which is what is most disturbing to me, because what we are experiencing, in my humble opinion, and I think some other people observe this as well, these type of behaviors that you're looking to address and that people are asking about or requesting in the survey have gotten worse in the last 5 years. Even during the COVID period, people were driving like complete maniacs, and it's only gotten worse.
Yeah, but nobody was on the street, so it was easy.
Okay.
If
If I may.
If I can have it back, because I wasn't done, go ahead.
Okay. One of the problems is that there is a shortage of traffic police whose primary responsibility is to enforce traffic. They've done away with the cars, the traffic cars. They have done away with all but 4 motor officers whose responsibility is traffic enforcement for the entire city. Okay, and how many streets is that per officer on a typical day? I mean, you have these shortcomings that are budget constraints when we should say, you want to reduce speed, you want to reduce accidents, you want to reduce crashes, change the people's behavior, cite them, suspend their licenses. Okay, there are people who they'll go down Allen and they will go through every single red light when it turns red. And I'm not talking about 30 miles an hour.
Yeah, I mean, enforcement is
I mean, I'm sorry to be adamant.
Yeah, no. I hear you. I mean, enforcement is definitely part of the picture. And we did talk to the BPD about this, and
The what?
Beaverton Police Department.
Yeah, BPD, okay.
Yeah, and that is, they see it, right? I mean, and the behavior has changed quite a bit, right? And they want it to be safer too. So I think there have been some shifts in norms out there, and I'm hearing, we've heard it out of the community too, right? I mean, when we were talking to folks, that definitely came through loud and clear, that people are not happy with seeing or experiencing this, right? It makes it feel unsafe for everyone. Like, if people are not actually abiding by traffic control devices, that's an issue, for sure.
But to be fair to you, it's not just Beaverton. It is a bigger problem, just, and I'm not saying it's an excuse,
Yes.
it's a problem, and at least it comforts me in that regard, it's not just us.
No.
It's a
that
bigger
is
problem around,
fair point.
and I think that's important to acknowledge,
Yeah.
just to put that.
And we covered most of what I was looking to get clarification of and to point out. But as you already know, I'm sure, we in Beaverton, in most instances, have very little control over what the speed limit is. It's ODOT who is concerned, who determines what the speed's going to be on these streets in most instances. And we can make recommendations, and Java, and people who are in those positions. And I think that making those changes can have some effect for those of us who are looking to obey the traffic rules. But what I'm seeing by and large is that people who are filling out these surveys, perhaps they care, but the rest of the people they do not drive in a manner that reflects the goals that you have gotten and collected in the survey, unfortunately, because I'm not Pollyanna today, I'm sorry, but it's just.
It's fair. I mean, I think some people refer to it as car brain. You could be the kindest, most caring person in the entire world walking down that street. And once you have your hands on a wheel, something happens. And you might just act in a totally different way, right? And so I think that there's something to be said for that. And really, enforcement is one aspect, but there are several other aspects that I know that you all talk about. Design is a big deal. I mean, it's one thing to lower a speed limit, but if you don't give cues to anybody about what the behavior is that is expected in that public space, then you might not get the behavior that you're looking for. So I think that I'll just say that there's a whole wide array of levers that can be looked at and that we're going to want to explore. Enforcement is one of them, but there are other ways to approach it.
I have a question for you, quick. Can you please tell me, and I'm sorry if I missed it, the purpose of this survey, of your presentation, was for us to walk away with what? And I'll tell you what I walked away with. I'll make sure to miss it. What was the purpose of us to walk away with what?
The purpose was to understand what the lay of the land is at this point from the analysis that we did over the last 6 months, because this is informing where we're going forward in the future. So
Where
we're really
we
more than
go with
informative, and if you had any questions or anything to add, that's what the purpose of this was.
I guess I need more direction, is like I do. For me, what I can tell you is, first you said it's really about, I ended up gathering from you, is 0 injuries, right? We want safety. Did I get that right? You want no one hurt.
Well, that is one of the goals. There are several goals. Those are listed on the project webpage, so you can go and take a look at all of them. I don't want to make that the only one, but it is one of them. Yeah.
Well, I guess that's what sometimes is really difficult when we get presentations. I can just tell you right now, is I really wanted to walk away with more like, this is the purpose of what we want to accomplish from here. I don't feel though, just to let you know, we know we have a speed problem. We face that every day. We deal with that. We know that. I actually think some of our issues with traffic is, we also have bigger issues is mobility, access, and yes, safety goes with it. But we have a mobility problem too. We have an access problem also at times that we have to deal with. And we have safety. You're right. And we tend to be you said you don't want us to be reactive, but the reality here, we are very reactive. That's what we want to be, is proactive. We want to be a part of that with you, just to let you know, but we are the reactive team all the time here. And that is where our hands are tied all the time. So when you share with us some of these things, we push back because we can tell you the issues that we face, and sometimes out there forgets to come and ask us before they execute a plan there. Safety 0 is important, you're right, but I can tell you some of the things that we do as RACT is we have a lot of these crashes just because we are mixing cars and bikes in this very small area of road. You can put all those, like you said, bike lanes that we have, but they don't feel safe. You're right. We're sharing and we see it. that we're jamming this bicycle, sharing the same lane of travel as a car. And that doesn't feel safe by any means, you know? We're causing sometimes a problem. I'm not blaming you, you asked. And our problem sometimes is, again, going back to our long-range plan. Because sometimes we need to plan for all these other alternative uses of transportation. We know bikes are coming, Vespas, all that. But we're not incorporating it early on in our plan, in our limited land use. Then we're shoving them in after the fact, and it causes a problem. I gave you a problems, probably the solutions, okay?
No, I'm hearing separation is really important to you and that you're looking for a solid long-range plan.
So we
I
can
guess
help
what would
work with you.
What would help you, what do you think would help you as a body be more proactive? Feel like you're being more proactive in that way? Or that,
when planning is done, because they come to us after the planning has been done and it's actually literally has been executed, you know, and then the problems arise and they're like, well, did you guys come and bother to ask us about this, you know, this was going to be a traffic problem? You know, I'm just sharing with you at that time. Sometimes it's more like, get us involved earlier on, not after the fact.
so you
But
feel
that's
like
what
it's more of
she's
a
doing
process?
though. We are at future network streets, right there, yellow box.
Mhm.
And the next thing is needs and solutions. So you want maybe solutions from us. Is that what you might want to gather or no?
I guess that goes to the public, it seems to.
We're in the process of taking what we learned, right? So the two key things are the key destinations where we need to connect. Think of it dots and nodes, right? I mean, they're the key places that people are really trying to get to, and then the routes to get there. And so we're planning on, that's what we plan on coming back to, and we can absolutely come back. I think that's the expectation through all 4 phases of here, to come back and keep you all in the loop and hear from you.
Yeah, if you want to suffer this. The other thing I wanted to ask you a couple of questions. One is, are you finished? I'm so sorry.
You're good.
Yeah. Okay. So redefining and repurposing public right-of-way. Sorry.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
So that can happen in any matter of way, right? So the way that a street is laid out right now, there's the whole public right of way is pretty broad, and it's laid out where you have like 4 lanes, and maybe you want to do some safety measures and add some wider sidewalks or bike facility or something like that, where you basically bring it down to 1 in each direction and use some of that
Just
space.
like Portland is doing.
There's lots of places that are doing, I don't know
Well,
if each
it's
place
right.
does it in a different way. I mean, it goes way beyond Portland. But it's been used quite a bit. I mean, it's public, it's basically, think about like renovating your house or something, you know, like it's a way to reorganize the way the space is at. Sometimes that happens when you're trying to do even just bulb outs, right? Kind of.
Yeah, I got the idea. And then the other thing is a little bit about what you want to convey with your presentation. I mean, what I was left with was we really have a problem. People really want safety, and we will somehow implement that. And it doesn't, I mean, like what came across, I'm just telling you, I didn't turn this on, but it came across like, how are we going to do that? And it doesn't matter what we say. I think that's maybe the reaction here. So anyway, that's just my take on it. And if you want maybe to know some solutions, you know, changing the human condition and behavior starts at the kids.
Oh, I can find that. Yes. Certainly.
So that was all
I hear you, yes.
Just to help out a little bit, I think in the interest of brevity, we did do a longer, like, what is this project, and explain the whole thing. So, and that slide that has the 4 steps did part of that, for sure. But really, as we are here toward the beginning, we did some homework first with existing conditions and like the engagement. And So we have the problem diagnosed pretty well. We wanted to share that with you tonight. But as you can see, there's lots of time remaining. We have we're going to finish, sometime in 2027. So we have to figure out a lot of things about what the future network should look like for each mode, for bikes, pedestrians, and transit, and cars, etc. And then we have to get our policies straight, think about our policies, how we want to adjust those. And then again, like solutions, like what things could we do in the various realms to make a difference in safety. It's a 20-year plan, so we know it's not going to be easy. It's hard to change behavior overnight. It's hard to change infrastructure overnight. But doing a long-range plan like this and talking to you all early and then coming back later will help us do a better plan.
Yeah. Thank you.
So there's, I think what I'm walking away with is I think that the very first Vision Committee survey in 2009 said that non-automobile gaps were the #1 issue that came out of that survey. The gaps in the sidewalk, bike lanes, and pedestrian easements and everything. But we're still identifying the gaps, even though we know that that's been the #1 issue for over a decade now. And I guess what I come away with is we're going to identify the gaps. That's #3. The first survey said that we had an issue in 2009, and so I guess I'm kind of surprised we don't have the gaps identified and we don't have them prioritized already, because the map, the color map with the push pins, when we attended or at least when I attended the open house and watched people put the pins in, everybody already knew where the problem places were and the danger spots were. So what I walk away with is we already have an idea where the gaps are, and now we're going to put it in. I guess, like I said, it feels a little reactive because we've got this vision now that we're going to fix these gaps, but it's going forward, and which is good for the future construction. Like if you look out at South Cooper Mountain, the subdivisions don't connect right now. You can't walk from, when I went over there, I have pictures, when you walk over there and look, you can't walk to the high school without going out onto shoals or up the hill or whatever that is to get to where they go, because the subdivisions are not required to do a connection between. It says closed, going to be extended to future development. But there's nothing in between because it's a green space. So I'm not sure who's going to do future development in the green space or the wetlands, because the road clearly has a right-of-way through there. But so that's part of it, because we're not fixing that now. But then the other one is for the existing pieces where we already have the gaps. Have we identified the cost and put a priority in there? Because the #1 issue right now is the city's got problems with money, right? The fiscal forums that get city managers going. In the discussion, she pointed out that 60% of the budget that we get, which was 25 cents per dollar from Washco taxes, went to the police department, and then we kind of cut some of that back. And we don't have enough, right? We're making these discussions. I think it would be very important to prioritize the existing gaps and to put a dollar sign so that people can understand what is this going to cost and what is it worth. Because I think the other thing we heard, the last point I think is traffic cameras, very expensive, right? But what's the ROI on that? Because if I know that everybody and their kid brother speeds on Allen, then a camera over there is probably going to pay for itself pretty quick. The one in Fred Meyer, I remember people getting mad saying it was a green light. I made it through at 50 and I got a ticket. And you were 20 miles an hour of the speed limit, and they're like, there was a green light, so you can't give me a ticket for going through there. It's like, you can get a speeding ticket for running, or you didn't get a ticket for running at a light, you got a ticket for speeding. Like, well, but it started to fix the problem, because people now come to a complete stop before they make a right turn into Fred Meyer. same thing. Is that, I guess that would be a takeaway too. You know, the cameras are expensive. It's the ROI if you start putting them up every quarter, because if people don't have a deterrent to their actions, then this is what I got to do to fix it. And if it costs it to money, then people are going to go, that's a great point, Bob.
Yeah, I mean, I think past needs, yes, we've done a lot of that work. You can look back at several of the plans.
Yes.
Most recently, one of the active transportation plan that has a lot of that in there. And that's again getting to the point that a lot of there's still needs for the exact reasons that you have just outlined, and that we're just not being able to respond as quickly as the community would like, right, or that we would like. And I also heard network connectivity. I think that's a very good point, and it's something that definitely want to be stressing as we're going forward, is moving towards what are the solutions that build out a full network, because the network's only as good as its weakest point. And once you hit that trip collapses. If you hit like the crossing is not going to be, you know, both physically or psychologically, right? And going to keep people, that kind of gets to that map that I had up there. We are going to be looking at prioritization, solutions, and costs. So the good thing is we're going to get there. We're just not there yet, because really what we're trying to get to is something that does help move the needle and set us up well for where we want to be, right? And to be like, these are our priorities. This is what it's going to cost. Do we want that as a community, and how can we get there, right? And how can we do that perhaps more quickly, and that is in that action slide than we have been in the past, right? So that's looking at different types of solutions that we have not looked at in the past, and those are some of those rapid implementation. You know, to build out the network fast might not be like a full scale, you know, cycle track in concrete, right? Because that's really expensive and takes a long time to go through the process. So how do we start looking at some more rapid implementation techniques to get that, knowing that the full network is required for folks to be able to use it in the way that they're hoping.
Well, like in development, like what you were talking about, that should have been properly planned earlier on. It's not going to wait until that happens. If the developers were required to have done that early on, they could have factored it into the price of housing. And all that side of all that area would have been built out in a timely manner, not in gap filling. Because of that, right? We're having gap filling. And that could take years before it even happens.
I'm not going to say everything's going to happen overnight, and I think there are different ways to get different parts of it, but we need to know what we want and what's our priorities. So hopefully we can get there with this plan, and I'm looking forward to coming back with you some of that information in future months. Is there anything else?
On slide 7, you say that every 11 days there's a crash where somebody dies or is seriously injured. What's missing, though, to me, is telling me what proportion of those crashes were due to speeding as opposed to, say, distracted driving or being drunk or under the influence of drugs. Because if the majority of those crashes are due to drink driving or distracted driving, then simply reducing the speed limit isn't going to be the most effective solution for the problem, right? So without knowing that, we don't know if reducing the speed limit is the most effective response.
Well, we do know that, I do have this, that the driving while intoxicated is less common than other observed, what we're calling antisocial behaviors, which are kind of like the risky, dangerous behaviors of following too closely, speed, driving aggressively, recklessly, carelessly, really just grouping those into it. But that only 5% of injury crashes involve the use of drugs or alcohol. So that's one. We did look at this. I will say that all of this comes from the crash report, and it's not a perfect thing, right? Particularly on speed. We know that speed does have a huge impact on how severe that's going to be. They can't actually put speed down unless they witness it or if it's reported. So like, it's not, even if speed's a huge factor in it, there's limitations on what they can put into a report, and that's what gets starting point, right? We have some information, but we always need to take what we have with a grain of salt, understanding that it's humans that are doing the police reporting. They have, you know, I mean, the police reports are big, there's a lot of check boxes. Let's
Okay.
just put it that way.
It's good that you got, because without that data, it's hard to know where to apply the most effective solution.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
You know, I'll just share one point, but not probably say nothing more. So some of the basic ways of how we can help with changing human behavior is by people knowing about it. You know, the whole old fashioned of just putting awareness. We'd be amazed, just again, I don't live in Portland, I work there. I mean, my office is home to obviously like a lot of us, we cross borders and do business. But just me sharing that with you, it's because I hate to say it, they did a really good job of messaging and sharing it out there to the community and reminding everybody it's your community. This is what's causing these deaths. So I'm just kind of like a messaging of the simple data that we sometimes hold here privately that they should know, right? I mean, those statistics were powerful that the media took it, and they need to talk about our statistics. And they need to remind them also, these stats are also causing, do you know how many deaths we already have, and it's only X time of the year? And it's because of the driving, it's because of high speed. That's behavior. That's something we can all contribute and control, and it can be a talking point. So maybe this simple messaging, again, I'm saving some money in that, could hopefully help try to change some of that.
Yeah.
Excellent, thank you.
Okay.
Thanks a lot.
Great. Thank you. Thank you.
Dan?
Is this one on?
Yeah.
There we go. Hi, everyone. My name is Dan Turk. I'm a transportation project manager. Before I get started talking about an upcoming planning project, which is Southwest Allen Boulevard Street Plan, I just wanted to say I hope it was evident in this presentation, of the presentations you've received from Jessica and Brian, the dedication and thoroughness that they take to that work. And I would really welcome you to look at the website and all of the plethora of information and thinking and storytelling that is occurring that cannot be held within a couple pages of a presentation. I, as a person that's working at the project level in Beaverton, am very happy that they're working at the higher policy level, and hopefully through their work there'll be some decisions made at that policy level that'll help my job be a lot easier working and implementing those at a project level. The purpose of my presentation is to talk to you about the Allen Boulevard Street Plan. This is a project that has not begun yet. The work for the planning will begin in 2 or 3 months. The purpose is to give you a heads up about this, and then also ask for your help in doing part of the preparation for this project, which is very important, which is designing the public engagement plan. Big important part of this project is really having it be working with the neighborhood, and whatever is decided that it be decided, having the neighborhood be heard, and having city council hear the neighborhood, and the neighborhood being comfortable with what comes out of this plan. So the city of Beaverton will begin developing the street plan. Like I said, a big priority of this work is going to be community engagement. We really want to hear what the neighborhood concerns, ideas, and level of support for these potential changes. Because of that, the activities that we have for engagement need to work for the people that are going to be impacted and want to participate in this process. A little bit of that project background. This is following up on transportation recommendations that were made as part of the Southwest Allen Boulevard's district plan, which was adopted by City Council in 2019. This was a huge effort in terms of going out to the community. Got a lot of responses. The prompt was basically how would you like your neighborhood to be better? What are the issues in your neighborhood? What could the city do to help? We had a lot of responses. Many of those were within. Excuse me. I think I need to get some water. Sorry, I've been sitting there at the wall. Thank you. So part of the things that we heard as part of the district plan were things having to do with transportation. Transportation safety was one of the big pillars that came out of that work. So that was the impetus for us going out and securing a federal grant to start working and moving forward in the area of transportation. Here's a little diagram of the project area for this planning study, basically from Murray Boulevard, almost all the way to 217, stopping at King Boulevard. This is just a basic graphic. Again, the work is not started. This is just something that I work with our GIS team to put together to just let people know, what's the area we're working with. Although it has been very interesting getting to know this area more. You can see there's a good amount of businesses. Those are in the dark brown, and then the apartments in gray. There's a lot of people that live very near Allen Boulevard. By my very rough count, it's probably 8,000 to 10,000 people. That's about a tenth of the population of Beaverton. And it is a very diverse neighborhood. Many Latin American people live there and operate and attend businesses. A little brief project description. The goal is to develop I'm sorry. I did not anticipate this. Sorry. The goal is to develop basically a 5 to 10 year implementation strategy for Allen Boulevard. Basically what we as a city want to do for the next 5 to 10 years on Allen. This work is going to be closely coordinated with the transportation system plan update work that Jessica and Brian are doing. As part of that work, at some point in the future steps, they're going to be looking at, I think it is 4 important corridors in the city, and looking at ways of improving those corridors along the attaining the goals of the transportation system plan update. Us here at Allen Boulevard are going to look at a fifth of those, a fifth corridor with a little more rigor, because we have more time and attention to be able to give to it. The goal is ultimately to have a street plan that is up for city council consideration and adoption. Project goals, again, I can't emphasize enough that it's very important that what we come up with reflect the various community needs and perspectives on Allen, attends the safety and comfort of people walking, biking, and taking transit. This was an important feedback that we received from the community during the district plan. And then, as part of that, contributing to a vibrant and livable neighborhood along Allen Boulevard. And then also broadening access for everyone. I characterize this work when people ask me, our job as staff, as part of this planning process, which is a typical planning process where you look at the project goals, existing conditions, you identify alternatives, you evaluate those alternatives, and you put them together into an implementation plan. Our job as staff is going to be to consider various different actions. The next 3 slides include some of them that we're thinking right now, but this is not an exhaustive list, and the actions will be identified as part of this process through our community involvement. But things like street lighting solutions, wider sidewalks, bike lanes, improving the bus stops, other things along the sidewalk area, wayfinding, speed limits and enforcement, striping and refuge islands, things along the intersections, or around the intersections. 2, I think, general themes of some of the actions that we will consider are, Jessica spoke about this in her presentation, we're repurposing the street right-of-way, maybe using the existing right-of-way space in different ways that improve outcomes for the neighborhood and people that use the facilities. And then also something Jessica mentioned, the quick build. I think one of the things behind both of these and the project itself is the cost. We're not really going to be looking at things like widening the right-of-way for various reasons, but one of them is how much it would cost, also how much it would impact the neighborhood. And then I personally am very interested in this project because we'd be looking at some quick build alternatives. Hey, these are things that we'd like to do that we can do very low cost in a temporary manner and see if they work. Quick project schedule. We are in the first step, which is preparation. We're in the process of choosing our consultant and taking advantage of that time. We are doing a preliminary round of engagement. This presentation is part of that. We are reaching out to the community. We're canvassing apartment buildings, businesses along Allen, handing out information about the upcoming study, and then asking people to visit our website and take a survey that will help us understand how they'd like to participate, how they'd like to receive information from us, how they'd like to, and most importantly, how they'd like to give us their opinions about things. There are a lot of ways that can happen. So that's what we're doing now in that first block of community engagement. The next 4 are, like I said before, the main steps of the planning process, and there's an interplay between the technical work in each step and the community engagement. Usually the engagement is done in a way that it feeds and informs the next round of technical work. So we'll be reaching out multiple times to the community during the planning process. In addition to what we're doing right now to, again, give people a heads up and get their help in identifying the best ways to work with them. I took a very nice a professional development class here at the city where we talked about engagement. And the facilitator, he always said, well, if you don't know, just ask. So what we're doing here is basically going out to people and asking them, how would you like to participate? What would work for you? Is it better virtually? Is it better with bigger forums? Is it better to have something more private where you can speak or you feel comfortable speaking? So that's what we're trying to do here. We have I call it a blessing. We've had to wait a good amount of time to get this project going, and we're taking advantage of these months to really prepare all the engagement aspect of things. Schedule overview more broader than the planning. The planning will hopefully begin in March and go through April, probably a 12-month period. We would go at the end of that to City Council. City Council would be involved before then as well for them to consider this implementation plan. If it would be adopted, we would probably begin executing in 2028. That could be sooner for projects, aspects of things that are easier to build or less expensive. So that's the schedule, and then a little bit more about the engagement. The community members are going to have multiple opportunities to share their perspectives at each step of the planning process. Of course, City Council is the authority to make the final decisions. It's our job to make sure that they're informed, not only of the technical pieces, but also what community members, what their ideas and opinions are about things. And then it's also our job to let community members know from each other what we've heard from them. There are a lot of different things that we can do for our engagement. These are just a few of them, but our idea is to tailor this depending on what we hear from this survey about how we can reach out and work best with people. So this is the last slide. My hope is that we can do a good job in putting together our engagement plan and ask for your help in filling out our survey. I have some cards to give to you, and please hand them out to anybody else that you know. I understand some of you live near Allen. More the merrier, please. It is very vital that what we're doing here is working with the community. My ask is take our survey online. You can let me know as well your preferences for participating, and then please spread the news to other people and groups that you think would be interested in participating, and help us be able to reach out to them. Thank you.
So Dan, you really do, it's not just the people living in that area, you want as much feedback from the people in the city that use that road to take the survey. Am I understanding?
Yeah. I mean,
That's exciting.
It's an interesting dynamic because you have a lot of people that live in the area, and frankly, that's what we've been focusing this preliminary round on, is canvassing and getting to know them. But obviously, Allen Boulevard is very important for the whole city. There's a lot of people that commute through there, and it's important that everybody be represented and provide their perspectives on things. Our job, as I see it, is to ultimately provide counsel, but also everybody that's listening. Hey, these are the things that we could do. If we do this, this might happen. This could affect these people in some way, these people in another way. And then ultimately, it comes down to trade-offs and
I think it's
decisions.
exciting. I love that. At first, I was getting the impression that you were just really focusing on, I call it that hub, and really only wanted to take that. I really agree with you that there's a lot of, I call it, people that use that road on a daily basis, that you can benefit from them. This is a conversation with my friends, Allen.
Do you live near Allen?
I don't, but I work close by Allen. I commute
Yeah.
onto that road almost every day for work, and my husband uses it to commute to get out of work. So in a different ways, friends and all that. We just talk.
Do you use Allen, or do you cut across Allen?
No,
Because what I've been
use
finding is
Allen.
a lot of people cut across Allen.
There's some of that, and more because of the pushing, but I think there's also people use it, I call it an egress of getting in and out of Beaverton also.
Yeah.
So I think that's also important. So I'm getting more excited than that, just because this is a conversation. This is exciting. I could just post it on my Facebook, and friends are going
Please.
to want to take it and just give their feedback, because it impacts all of us around there. I call it spills onto Murray, it spills onto other areas. I almost see it like the Nightmare Project Shoals was. To a degree, years ago, 20 years ago, where Shoals was, and it was ugly, it was horrible, it was coming in place. To have an actual vision and a plan of where we want it to go, I think you're getting a lot of buy. You'll get a lot of buy from businesses. I know a lot of businesses that I talk to. Getting them engaged, like a lot of people that work there in the Safeway Plaza, that plaza across the street, I'm just sharing with you what I think you should do also is, the little flyers you're gonna give us, drop them off in a lot of those businesses.
Yeah, we've been doing, and actually that is
Yeah.
another ask, if you have ideas about how to best engage with people. Yeah, we heard from the owner of I think it's the Chevron station at the corner there, called us and said, what's going on? And then, of course, people's first impression is, we're building tomorrow.
Yeah.
But they were very happy because, their customers have a tough time getting in and out there.
Yeah, and they use that area as a cutway to try to get around that little corner there at times. And that owner, it is what it is. He's nice. He puts up with a lot. He really tries to work with the community, in my opinion.
Yeah, there are two guys that,
He really does try to work with the community.
yeah.
So I'm happy to do that, and I'll take some of those, and I think I know quite a bit of people within that hub that would love to take your survey.
Thank you. Yeah, and the survey, again, is just, for now, it's just how do you want to participate? But once we have people's information, we can, every step of the way, we can go on and ask in the way that people are comfortable. Whether that be an email or call, or be part of a focus group, or, or part of, an online survey that we send out to people.
I say, we all complain about this, even in the community. I think it's so important for people, even put it on the newsletter, and tell them, this is your opportunity to speak and to come and tell us how you want this place to look and change.
And I would suggest you include the people who live around Danny, because if Ellen is being limited, that's the next place they will go, right? I mean, that's what we were to take.
In terms of, yeah, I mean,
It's gonna be-
and that is, there's gonna be some, we're not gonna rely on a lot of heavy statistics. I'm a transportation planner, I worked with a lot of models before, and I know the limitations and the ways that they can be used. But there's gonna, as we're choosing a consulting firm or people to work with, it's gonna be a premium in being able to tell an objective and understandable story of what would happen.
Yeah.
And what are the risks or what are the uncertainties, and that is something that could be part of some of these implementations. And again, there are trade-offs involved. What do we value as a city? One of the bigger trade-offs maybe, do we value having quick in and out access of 217 versus having a real safe and comfortable neighborhood around Allen, right? I mean, that's probably going to be one of them, and that's why it's important to hear from the people that live on Allen, how these things impact them. I've already been hearing things from apartment complexes that, when people have one way in and out of these, and they're complexes that have 500 people living in them, 300 people.
And only one way out.
Only one way out, and it takes them like 20 minutes to get in and out. I mean, it's something that they have to think
Or doing something illegal in the
about.
traffic to do so, because it's very scary. I see it with some frequency.
Yeah.
And if I may, I was concerned because I was hearing about your going door to door with the community engagement and the diversity that you've got in that area. Because diverse communities are currently, what's the word I'm looking for? Are scrutinizing folks who are coming to their door. I was curious as to how effective this was, and I also was concerned about them becoming further marginalized from being able to participate in this because of fear and because of other folks weighing in. Not that we don't want the opinions of other people, but when the larger community is more comfortable with your traditional means of conducting your survey,
You're spot on in about 3 or 4 things in what you just said. I'm lucky that I speak Spanish. I used to work in Latin America. We also have a couple other people here at the city, including people that work on our economic development division that supports businesses. So we're out there, talking to people in Spanish. I tell you, it's not easy. I mean, we're talking to businesses that are putting up with 10% of the customers that they usually have. And they're being very quiet about it. I would hazard to say if this was a different demographic, that city council would be hearing a lot more about this. So my big concern is some of these businesses may not even be around. I've also heard from property managers that nobody used to use their laundry room, and now they're using it at 20. They have to change out the quarters like every day or something, and they want more machines because people are scared to walk a half a block or a block to the coin laundry. So within that environment, I can tell you personally, the reason why I like this project is that I feel that the Latin American community here in Beaverton gets somewhat taken for granted. And I think this is an opportunity for the city to show them that they matter and to listen to them. And I'm very happy to be part of that. And then hopefully have something happen on the corridor. I think that and this is why we're asking people, I think that you're right, some of the things that make sense or seem to make sense about like, oh, well, let's just go out to the community and have one big meeting where everybody can come and talk. Not everybody's very comfortable speaking in front of a lot of other people. Not everybody processes information from a 20-minute slide right away. So that's why I like thinking about ways in which we can have ways in which people feel more comfortable to share in getting that feedback and then communicating that feedback on to others. So the engagement is a big piece of this. The rest of it, I mean, it's not rocket science in terms of the solutions. Some of them are new to Beaverton, and that's another exciting piece of this. You know, like something like repurposing the way that a road, you know, the lane configuration of a road is something that Beaverton really hasn't done too much. Maybe Allen isn't the best place for it ultimately, but maybe this can get a discussion going about maybe where some places are. And then the quick build, I think, is something for a city like Beaverton who we've had trouble doing things to respond. We don't have a lot of money, and sometimes the people don't feel heard. I mean, a quick build project, you can do it rather quickly, it doesn't cost a lot of money, and then you can put it out there and then ask the people using it if it's working or not. So, you know, that has a big potential as well.
We've been hearing a lot about those with the actual traffic calming as well. So
Yeah, the program there, and then of course Jessica and her team are looking at, you know, programs, to think about more programs as, you know, programs of doing certain things in different locations as opposed to just thinking about a project in a very specific location.
My other quick question,
Yeah.
I do apologize, I'm almost done. Funding, has funding previously been allocated, and are there grant possibilities to subsidize?
So that is a question, and the answer is we don't have an answer right now. There is no funding lined up. My hope is that by doing a good planning process where we identify an action plan that really adheres to our goals as a city, that also adhere to goals from the metropolitan and state level, and also having it be something that is an easy yes for city council and supported by the neighborhood would help us be able to get regional and state grants that would form a big bulk of what we do. There's a possibility that some of the things could be funded on an ongoing basis through like a traffic calming program or such, but you know, that'll be part of what we think along the way. All of these projects as well, although you know this didn't come up in what we were speaking about, but it's very important to us for this project in particular, but all projects, including the ones downtown. We don't want to be doing things that are going to be displacing the people that live and have businesses there now. That's not a good outcome. So, you know, there's always the possibility of having a plan in which, well, if there's redevelopment here, you know, you can get a wider sidewalk, or you can close some driveways, or you can get some of the investment be done by private developers. But I wouldn't see a big part of this being that. I think it'd be more things that we can do ourselves.
Thank
you. The other things you want to consider are other minorities. You have Somalis, you have Asians, and all the different types of Asian communities, you know, that should be addressed and included.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. I mean, there's a Korean community in some of the areas there. I was not aware of the Somali. Do you live near Allen, sir?
Yeah, I live about 60 feet from Allen.
Where Allen and where?
I'm on 130th.
Okay.
She's 80 feet from Allen.
Okay, so you all are on the western part where it's kind of going up and down, and it has 4 lanes, and you're wondering how people can still drive that fast?
Yeah.
Given they can't see anything? Yeah.
Bless their heart.
Bob, is that everything? Okay. So, thanks, Dan. I appreciate all the time and effort and the thoughts about that, and also the comments about Jessica and Brian's work too. So thank you. A couple of things. I think when you do the survey, it would be interesting to, or when you get anybody's feedback, is to understand if they are pass-through or they're a resident, right? It's similar to the traffic in Beaverton as a whole, right? I think Washington County says that 48% of the people who are in Washington County work outside the county, and then 51% commute in, right? So how much of that traffic, like truck traffic too, is pass-through, right? And it's the same here. How many are going to use that as a pass-through because they're up farther out of town, and that and that's the way in. They had that similar, I think, to the other one where they were doing the study on Denny, and it wasn't that Denny has a lot of people that live there. It's that Denny Hart Murray, right? If you're going there and you don't want to deal with Allen, it's Denny Hart Murray because you're not taking the parking lot at Shoals because you can't get to Provis Ridge, right? So that was one of them to get that. I think the other one would be a clear understanding of what the quick build is, because I think you absolutely need to explain how much of the right-of-way, right? The first thing you hear is Denny's getting reworked, is we're going to take out the hills and we're going to add 5 lanes and we're going to have a turn lane and we're going to make this really great. But if I already have a right turn ingress egress because I can't cross the road, then if you're not going to expand the right-of-way, you're not going to solve that problem, right? It becomes safety for the pedestrians and the lights and all that, but fundamentally there's some things that aren't going to change by virtue of not being able to improve basically the road bed. So I think that would be really helpful if people understood.
Well, our hope, and I've been working with Jabra even upstream, on this project, looking forward to him. We all agree that our job is really to put out, hey, these are things that could be done, and then for what's done, this is what the implications would be.
Right.
Some of them could be perceived as negative, some of them could be perceived as positive, and then, obviously, if people ask questions about more specific things, we can elaborate. But there's some trade-offs. There's some important trade-offs that we need to make in some of these situations.
But I think if they understood what's on the table to begin with and what's completely off the table, like you said, if money's short, you can't improve. You're not going to expand it right away.
Yeah, you're right. There's going to be probably an initial sort of feasibility level kind of thing about like, hey, these are things that we really can't look at, and this is why. Like we're not looking at expanding the right of way significantly because we don't have the money. Also, it's just not from a policy or sustainability point of view really a good idea, and have some rational storytelling that is backed up by our local and regional state policies.
Right, because if you give them, I'm just thinking if you tell them what's off the table, then you kind of put some guardrails on and let them do something creative within that.
Yeah.
As opposed to saying, like I said, the first thing I thought of when you're doing this is they're apparently going to fix the whole thing, and then we hear more of it, and you're kind of like, okay, it's not, because like you said, if the business owners are already excited about all this, what are they envisioning when I hear we're going to fix this, and then it's like, oh, everybody's going to be.
Well, that's why.
You gotta give a reality check.
And also one of the, you list a series of actions that'll be considered. It's hard. We haven't even started, so it's hard to say what are the ones that we would be considering. These are options, but yeah, I mean, this is a challenge. Another tightrope is, you want people interested in participating, but at the same time, the district plan was 6 years ago. A lot of the things that were in there, the city's been very slow to follow up on. And then, if there's no funding that's available to do anything afterwards, or as of now, why should I participate? Is this going to be going anywhere? And the hope of this is really to have something come out of this that we are comfortable with and we can implement to do something, right?
I think you need a sense of urgency too, is if you don't get in line now, you might never get in line. So the whole planning is important, like you're saying, it may not happen, but if you don't even try, you're never going to.
Well, that's always the no build, for lack of a better word. I mean, it goes on a certain trajectory. I mean, part of what we're trying to do with our TSP is get the city on a different trajectory. If these things, if we stay where we are now, it's going to, lead to a certain unsustainability in a lot of ways. And for example, in Allen, if things aren't done, it's going to lead to much lower livability for people there, right? So that is a very important context.
Thank you, Dan. I appreciate that. Question?
Oh, and if I could, Milliken, you mentioned Milliken, Ernie, and we came with you all a few times on that one. Thank you for your input. That was a concept plan that was adopted by council in June. It's on our website. It was I would say, a nice solution in terms of the bike facilities, pet facilities. Also, we work with the businesses and property owners there. We're currently working through the design to implement that, working with the property and business owners to make sure the construction works for them. And once we have the design done, we'll be presenting it to council and the community. So I think that was a good project, and thank you for your feedback on that.
Okay, thank you. Take care. All right. Thank you, Dan. Appreciate it.
Oh, and here, may I hand out these cards?
No.
Is that appropriate?
Who knows?
We'll have to check with the city attorney.
Ernie, you're a walking dictionary on transportation.
Thank you all. Stephanie, you get one too.
Oh, thanks, Dan.
Okay, so do we need to
We have something else to.
Yes, well, I'm just waiting for it, didn't want to write. Okay, so the next one, we have new business. We need the election of traffic commission officers for 2026.
Bridget, we nominate you.
Birgit? Bridget doesn't live.
Sorry, Bridget. We
For chief.
as, no.
What? Yeah, so, okay, so here's, yeah, we need to elect, we need to elect officers 2026. There will be a chair and a vice chair. I believe last year we did them individually, so we would take nominations for the, I don't think it matters, but for a vice chair then. Is there a process, I didn't see, I'm not aware of one that we had to.
No process, but typically they pick the vice chair and the chair.
Right. So we'd open nominations for vice chair.
I don't want to do it.
No, I'm just, no,
He's looking at me. I don't want to do it.
no, so the process is nominations and then close the nominations and then a motion for those nominations.
Okay, I nominate Melissa. Are we in commissioner or
And then we can put another name though, right?
So you're nominating Commissioner Bobadilla for vice chair.
Yeah, that's what we're doing.
Okay,
right now,
yes,
vice chair.
yes. Are there other nominations?
Commissioner Urbanski.
Commissioner Bansky, it's 2 nominations. Any others?
Bridget, you want to stand for it too?
No. I think we don't need to split all the votes. No.
By the way, he can decline the nomination.
That is true.
So,
You were supposed to encourage.
I saw him shaking his head.
No, I'm just saying, that's
Okay, so we
What else
vote.
do we do? Okay, so there's one nomination. There were 2 nominations, 1 declined. There's 1 nomination then. Any other? Okay, then I would make a motion to make Commissioner Bobadilla vice chair.
Don't we have to vote for it?
Yep, I have to make a motion.
Oh, and then I
Right, it's a
second.
nomination, so who's nominating who, right? So we have 1, 2, 1 decline. Still need a motion. I make a motion then.
I second it.
Okay, and it's second by Commissioner Friedler, then that is a motion, so final discussion, anyone? Okay, then roll call would be Commissioner, Commissioner what? Commissioner Miranda?
I'm dead. You're giving us a hard time.
No,
She said
I'm
aye.
helping. Aye.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Friedler.
Aye.
Commissioner Moore?
Aye.
Commissioner Bansky?
aye.
And Chair Conway, aye. So motion passes. Oh, sorry.
I don't need to vote up here. Thank
What?
you.
You have to do that. Commissioner Bobadilla?
Aye.
Okay, so motion passes. Thank you. 6-0. All right, then we'll open nominations for chair. And we can change it around too.
I nominate Ernie Conway.
Yeah, I can.
Other nominations? not gonna have it. Okay, so then we close the nominations and we need a motion.
I motion, oh, you want a motion?
No, go ahead.
Okay, I motion for
Ernie Mott.
Ernie.
Okay,
I'll
so,
second.
motion by Commissioner Miranda and second by Commissioner Friedland. All right, then, final discussion? All right.
Can we say by unanimous acclamation that we want you to remain? Is that a possibility, or do we have to vote one by one? How is? I'm
You
not
got a
sure.
roll call.
You still
Yeah.
have
I
to
still have to do a
vote.
roll call, okay. I was just
That's
asking
it. Move
point
it
of-
along. I
point
know,
of
I-
information.
It has to be in the minutes who voted what.
Oh, okay, fine.
Commissioner Miranda,
Aye.
Commissioner Friedland,
Aye.
Commissioner Moore,
Aye.
Commissioner Bobadilla,
Hi.
Commissioner Urbanski.
Aye.
It should be Vice Chair Bobadilla, but, and Conway, I'll go with aye. but-
Do I get a raise?
Yes.
50%.
All right.
Yeah.
As a follow-up to that, there has been some discussion about making sure that we do have some sort of, each board and commission should have within its own some sort of succession program. So there is discussion this year and next year about how to move that forward so that it kind of rotates. This is a little different, but because like city council, for example, is a different council president every year, right? So it just changes. But this is a little different, so there's still discussion on how that would work. So if next year you're thinking about it, or you're interested, or Commissioner, well, it'll be Vice Chair Bobadilla to do that, then we'll work into it. And if somebody wants to be Vice Chair following that, maybe she will want to be Chair next year, then that's something to keep in mind as you go through your term, because it would be interesting and helpful and probably insightful for everybody else too. So I appreciate the help and thank you. Anything else?
Next meeting.
Still
Mr.
under new business. Just before you, I put a flyer for Community Transportation Academy. So if you are interested, this is a free courses through PSU.
Yeah, I already looked into that. Thank
Yeah.
you. I'm not sure where I got, did that come in your minute? I'm not sure where I saw it. Oh, actually, I got that from PSU. Thank you.
There was one on the dais.
What's that?
He did put one on the dais.
Right, I know,
Oh,
but I
okay,
saw,
all right.
I was trying to think, I'm like, oh, right, because I'd have to do
Is
that,
it
because I just
possible that
already
they
started
reject
all
you,
that.
or because it says here you apply?
You have to apply.
Yeah, it says.
Well, apply, register,
Apply
yeah.
for the class, and then, is it possible that they reject you?
I have no idea.
It's free and they're limited. It's in one of the rooms, so I think they're just making
No,
sure
it's
that they
so-
don't get 200 people and it's just anybody. I think they want to make sure you're committed to that because it's 6 weeks and Tuesday night for an hour and a half, hour and 40 minutes.
But it's on Zoom too.
Yeah.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, it was?
Yes.
Oh, okay,
yes.
because I was going to go down there. It's at the PSU campus, but okay.
Yeah, it is also, but I
It's-
thought, oh, it's right there. Go on, man.
That's what I thought too.
Yeah, okay.
All right, good,
All right,
good.
cool.
Okay, then, now your question. Meeting next month?
So far, we don't have any issues, so
Good.
probably we will not have a meeting in March.
All right. Thank
You
you.
can create some issues.
Please
So
don't.
far, you mentioned
Wait till
something about
April.
the parking study and the results of it. They will be here in April, basically to give you the final presentation on the final results of the parking study and how to move on.
Okay, so for Mr. Commissioner Friedlander, then that might be a good time to, if there's no other public hearings or anything, I understand. If nothing else comes up and the timing works right, because obviously this evening took, then that would be a good time to add on a work session to discuss, like take that feedback and say, okay, what do we think of that, and go exactly what you were saying about a
In
presentation
April,
back.
you mean?
In April,
Yeah.
yes. After that presentation.
After that, yeah.
Mr. Cascio, when are we going to hear about traffic calming again?
Traffic calming, it got adopted. The
Right.
program got adopted by City Council, and currently there's a dashboard online. So you could go online, click on that dashboard, and it tells you the priority of the streets that they will be getting traffic calming.
Right.
It's a good tool, informative, but this is the new process. Basically, we just pick, we get funding, we pick how many streets we can do, and we work with the top 2 or 3.
Oh, okay.
We work with the plan with the neighbors, but the final plan will be approved by the traffic commission.
That's what I was asking about. Will those come in one by one in different months, or will we see a particular month, or they all come to us at once?
They will not be together. They probably, potentially could be together. It may be all of them, depending how the process goes with the neighbors and staff time too. Also, we don't have that much funding where we could do, big sections. So we're keeping the program moving. Recently, we installed temporary traffic calming devices on Riggert Road. So if you drive that way between 155th and 160th, there is new speed cushions there, but they're made out of rubber. So we
Those
put
are
them-
temporary, right?
Yeah. So we put them in. We ask the neighbor how they feel about it. We do a speed study. If everything is good, then we put the permanent ones in. We found out this process is a little bit more expensive because you put the temporary, you take them out, you put permanent ones. So basically, you're doing the process twice. So I'm thinking probably in the future we'll think that a little bit different. So we'll learn and we'll keep you informed on it.
What's the feedback so far on that?
You know what, when people are happy, don't hear anything.
When they're happy?
So we haven't heard any negative,
I live not far from there, and don't get me wrong, my husband hates speed bumps. Most people do, right? But he's saying like that's one of the very good places where they should have gone. Given that we no longer have cops available to the degree that we did, right? That we don't have that fake ghost car anymore. That is slowing traffic down for a lot of those kids. It really is forcing them. I think it's going to be great for that, the school. It's showing it. At least I drive by there often, and it really is showing it with those cars.
All right, anything else? Any discussion about tonight?
No. Oh, yeah, do it before it closes.
All right, we're adjourned then. Thanks.
Do not